welcome in to Check the Mic. Steve Palazzolo and Sam Monson. We're live on YouTube, all presented by FanDuel, and we are live in the Antonio Cromartie studio, in part with Huggies. I was actually watching an old game the other day, as I always do, and they did the in part with.
Yeah.
And that could be in partnership with, or could just be, partially.
Okay. Oh, yeah, I was confused by that wording when it was sent into us.
By the way, I think it works either way.
I think the update, it should be, did you see that Sean Alexander is onto like his 14th kid?
Yeah.
It should be Sean Alexander.
With the same woman, with his wife.
I'm just saying, as an output, 14 has got to be.
Sean.
What's Cromartie? He doesn't have 14 kids. I mean, Phillip Rivers doesn't have, this is the new standard.
Good for Sean. I see Sean every year at the Super Bowl. Love Sean. Great guy. Anyway, big show today. Week 5 NFL preview. Yesterday we had if you're not catching our Wednesday show, the Wednesday update, it's a fun time. We have a fun time on the Wednesday show. Shouty shows. We had a great interview yesterday with Seth Walder talking about going for 2 early in a 14-point game. And we broke down some rookies, had some suggestions to break down some second-year, third-year type of players. I think we could do that too, give some updates every week on what we're seeing. We spent so much time on the draft. We did this a little bit in the offseason. What have we seen from all these draft prospects we broke down? We can do some updates on that as well.
Yeah.
How about an update on our picks in Survivor?
Yes.
Which I did survive last week somehow.
Tell the people, tell the listeners what happened to your Survivor.
My strategy last week was to look at Survivor, make fun of you for picking the easy one, the Lions.
Right.
Didn't actually click the button on the Lions, which I was going to take.
So, made fun of me, decided to take the same team, forgot to actually do it.
Didn't click the button. I'm sitting there watching the 1 o'clock games like, uh-oh, what's my Survivor pick again? And I look and I was like, oh, I didn't pick anybody. So the only available teams were the late games.
Yeah.
So I went through the late games, picked the Rams against the Colts.
Right.
I picked the Rams against the undefeated Colts in Survivor. And thanks to A.D. Mitchell, I've survived. And so I'm still around. Rams are off the board. I think I've taken every NFC West team, actually. So I'm still around in Survivor heading into week 5 here.
Nice. Well, you are one of the lucky 260 people that are still alive. So we're almost through 50% of the field. We were running these 2 leagues throughout the sleep ramp that came from our Discord. So we got 500 people in a Survivor pool, 500 people in a Pick'em league, 260 people still up and running. So we're almost through half the Survivor field. The Pick'em League, somebody called Rory Maruna is now top with 43 wins. He's 1 clear, I think, of the field. Somebody last week had 13 wins to fly pretty high up the list. I had a brutal week last week, so I'm now 10 back of the league 10 back of the lead with just 33 wins. But I believe that's still some way clear of you and your son. Harry has 28, according to your update, and you have 25.
Awful at this right now. I had a good week. I was 8-8. Good week for me.
Yeah. Somebody was pointing out that, the obvious fact that simply fading you every week would make you a lot
Someone
of money.
Was pointing out, you've been doing this for 3 years.
I've been pointing it out for
trying
years, but somebody else, on Twitter was like, you would be racking up like a Fortune 500 type of portfolio if you simply faded Steve every single week.
Anyway, we got to get to the games.
Yeah, funny how we always have to get to them once.
It's time to go.
Looking at your picks.
Got to hard out. It's we've got bye weeks, right? So we should have a quick, crisp show here today.
Oh yeah,
with bye weeks.
Always happens.
All right, let's start with Thursday Night Football. San Francisco 49ers at the Los Angeles Rams. It's 7.5 right now. The Rams are favored over under 46.5 from our friends over at FanDuel. This game was the spread was 3.5 just a couple days ago. But Brock Purdy, Ricky Pearsall, and Juwan Jennings.
Yeah. It's like how much, the nerds always talk about, well, quarterback's the only player who really moves the line, and, how much is he worth to the line if he gets hurt? What if all of the players
What about the entire
hurt?
offense?
Yeah, what if at least everybody is listed as hurt? How much does that move the line?
Yeah, pretty significantly.
Yeah.
So, look, Rams are they're in an interesting spot. They're not putting up a ton of points, but they're moving the ball really well. Puka Nacua, dominant through 4 weeks here. Devontae Adams looks like a good fit. Matthew Stafford playing really good football after I thought what was a down year for him last year. He's back to, I think, what he was doing in 2023 and points of 2021 when they won the Super Bowl. So I think the Rams are looking really good. There's a lot on paper that says they should win by a score or two in this game at home.
Yeah, I think that's true. I mean, man, it's hard to. Which way is the only thing that could stop this? Like, clearly, the Rams are way healthier aside from anything else, and for that reason alone, they should win this game reasonably comfortably because I think the two teams were, vaguely evenly matched heading into the season, but one team's got all their players, the other team's got almost nobody. Which way does the NFC West rock paper scissors thing work? I never remember that because that's the only thing that could change this. For whatever reason. Kyle Shanahan, Juju.
Shanahan always owned McVay.
So that would be the only thing that would make you go, is there any reason whatsoever why this would go against the Rams? But that's it. That's it.
There were times throughout history when the Niners had like a great offensive line and the Rams would come out and throw 97 straight screens.
Yeah.
Like it was you would get McVay into these extreme game plans. Like, I hate that. I can't deal with the rush. We're going screen heavy. Jared Goff didn't throw the ball beyond the line of scrimmage or whatever in one of the games. Late last year, let's see.
Sumer Sports has a couple of fascinating numbers on Puka Nacua. He's got a catch rate of 84%, which is extremely high, 6 out of 107 players. He hasn't dropped anything yet, 0 drops. And an 80.8% completion rate when targets are charted as not open based on separation. So when you're throwing to him and he's covered, you're still completing 80% of your passes, 81% of your passes.
That's
the league average for those apparently is 45.5%.
That's amazing.
So he's almost double the average of completion rate when you're targeting him and he's not open.
Yeah, he's been outstanding. Do you see the clips too of Stafford with the game tying touchdown? Kind of taunting and everything. He's having fun out there.
Yeah.
4th straight week, I'll say maybe we overrated the back injury. Always going to keep an eye on it, though.
For yourself.
We're 1 week away, or 1 week removed from the Niners not even hitting or knocking down Trevor Lawrence in their game. So the first week without Nick Bosa.
Yeah. Like, whatever about the offense, it's banged up. Basically, the only man left standing is Christian McCaffrey at this point. You go to the defense, and you're like, the first chance they had to show pass rush without Nick Bosa went almost as badly as it could possibly have gone. Like, basically nobody got any pressure whatsoever. And they did some of the things that we were saying they would have to do. Like, Bryce Huff played a lot more, Now, again, there's a difference between playing more snaps and actually focusing on the run or simply saying, look, just be out there as a body, but still go after the quarterback every time. Point is, none of it worked. Like, they did the things, they still got 0 pressure. That's a problem.
I make this joke every year, so let's roll with it. A team has a record. I say, is this the best? Is this the best 0-4 team in history? Is this the worst 10-0 team in history? 2020 Steelers. The Niners are in rough shape for a 3-1 team.
Yeah,
they're in rough shape. I mean, you've got Trent Williams kind of regressing a little bit at left tackle, but that battle with Jared Verse, I think, looks like a lot of fun every time they're lined up opposite each other. You've got a receiving core now that is Demarcus Robinson, Kendrick Bourne, Sky Moore, Marquez Valdez-Scantling, Mac Jones at the helm, who played pretty well for a couple weeks.
Sure.
But with more with Pearsall, with Jennings in there, and then you have Christian McCaffrey trying to carry the workload. We'll talk about him with the FanDuel prop bet in just a little bit. So, and then the Nick Bosa factor, like we said, inability to create any kind of pressure with him without him.
Yeah. Like the 49ers, the way they've been winning games, on the one hand, it's great because you're like, look, if they just get people healthy, they've stolen some wins, that will put them in a great position later in the season. The thing is, though, people are not getting healthy. If anything, they're getting more banged up, and they're losing players as the weeks go on. So you're like, okay, they've been winning these games, but the more bodies they lose, the less likely they are to win the next one. Like at some point, it doesn't matter. You're just too banged up for it to matter. Like they actually need to get some of these bodies back for them to have any kind of future this season. But, they put themselves ahead of the 8 ball with the wins that they got earlier in the season.
Did it again. Tweeted out the wrong thing. Do you think, if you're talking about, hey, how can the Niners hang? What could happen? Fred Warner, who over the last couple of years has had so many games where he's almost single-handedly keeping the Niners in it with a turnover, a peanut punch. I mean, those are the types of things. Why is my record so bad, Sam? Because I can't predict punt return touchdowns. I can't predict blocked kicks. And that's exactly why.
That's definitely why.
That's why my record is off. That is the type of thing that keeps the Niners in this game. If they can, win special teams, Fred Warner, forces a key turnover, whatever it might be. that's how they stay in this thing.
Yeah, I mean, look, this is a game that feels like there's no way the 49ers should win it, and yet even the man in Vegas has it as within a score, right? Like this is the variance within the NFL, is that generally speaking, this is a fairly comfortable looking Rams win, and yet even the Vegas line says one bounce of the ball and it goes the other way, right? And that's where a special teams blocked kick. Suddenly there's a touchdown, a peanut punch, a fumble six, a pick six. Like any of these things immediately put 7 points on the other direction, and the game flips. Like that's just the reality of the NFL. So anytime you talk about these games, you're like, well, how could it possibly go the other way? Any one of those things could make that happen, right? But you assume that the longer this game goes, Stafford's playing out of his mind. Puka Nacua looks great. Devontae Adams looks really good. The Rams' offense generally looks pretty strong. Their defense is powerful. They have the advantage pretty much everywhere.
My special teams ignorance strikes again, as the chat says. All right, man. Rams by 7.5, over under 46.5. Where are you going to go with this Thursday night pick?
I liked it more when it was, 3.5, but I'm still picking the Rams, even at this number.
Same. If you're in our sleeper pick'em league.
Yeah, those lines lock on Tuesday, I think,
Yeah.
so you can get some crazy lines relative to.
So there's
doesn't really matter because it's a captive league. You're not some money on it.
No, but we're all working with the same lines there. But there's good value on the Rams, I would say. That's not a free pick, but there's value there.
Yes.
I'll also take the Rams even with the 7.5, as will Harry, my 10-year-old.
Nice.
We're going to go in order for one more game. Then we'll hit some of the big games of the week. Minnesota Vikings at the Cleveland Browns. This one is in London, also across the pond.
Yeah.
And then across the channel?
No.
How do you get there in the aisle from Dublin? How did the Vikings travel? They flew.
That's a good question. I would assume they flew, on the basis that they would have flown, I guess. You can take the ferry.
What did they fly over?
It's more of a pain in the ass.
How long is the ferry? The Irish Sea?
Yeah.
Okay, so they flew over the Irish Sea from Dublin to London.
Right.
Okay, gotcha.
Probably. They may have taken the ferry, but who knows?
I'll text Quasi, let me find out.
There's a lot of stuff you got to transport, is all I'm saying. Like, as long as you got to transport like 50 trucks of crap, you might as well go with it.
Anyway, the Vikings are favored by 3.5. Second straight week, we'll see Carson Wentz across the pond, starting for the Minnesota Vikings. With the Minnesota Vikings are set up. Their base of operations in London is nowhere near London, and apparently it's sufficiently out in the direction of Ben Stockwell from PFF that Carson Wentz went wandering to get a haircut, like in Ben's hometown. Really?
Yeah, just like out on his own. Anonymous in the British countryside.
Does he realize that one of the world's foremost football experts is from that?
I don't think he does.
From that area.
No.
I don't know if Carson understands the power of Ben Stockwell and how sharp he is. In all of the PFF grade discussion on social media and these nerds and, all these idiots with their grading and everything. And Ben is over there, football genius, just, adjacent to Carson Wentz.
Yeah.
Getting his beard trimmed or whatever he was doing. Dylan Gabriel's making his debut.
Yeah.
We'll have some fun with this. I got a tweet to read. Vikings, do you want to try to figure out the Vikings offensive line situation here? The following offensive linemen were taking snaps per Alec Lewis. By the way, I just accidentally tweeted this out as a link to our show. Again, second time in 4 days.
Nice.
Blake Brindell, Joe Huber, Henry Bird, Vershawn Lee.
Yeah.
As they try to figure out the offensive line situation. The situation that had two big-name free agents at center and right guard this offseason, a first-round left guard, what was on paper already one of the best tackle duos in the league. And
so you've got Ryan Kelly, who's now dealt with multiple concussions recently and has a history of concussions, so you would assume they're going to be treating him with kid gloves and keeping him out for a while. So center's done. Left guard, you've got the rookie Donovan Jackson, who's down with a wrist injury, and he's going to be missing. In the game last week in Dublin, they lost right tackle Brian O'Neill to a knee sprain on a kick, as blocking for the kick, the field goal. So 3/5 of your offensive line is missing.
Yeah, not bad.
Going up against arguably the best defensive line in the NFL.
Yeah, the Browns creating a ton of havoc with a four-man rush, of course, led by Myles Garrett. Browns defense has been outstanding, And again, even last week, they give up, 31 or whatever to Detroit. Yeah. 7 came on a punt return. And you have Joe Flacco turning it over a couple times. Like, the Browns defense hung tough last week in the Dome against Detroit. And they have the only 2 games that they've given up a ton of points were against Baltimore and Detroit, when it was really the offense or special teams or field position that let them down. This Cleveland defense has been very good.
It has. And look, that Vikings offense is kind of in a mess most of the way through the season. They're dangerous because Jordan Addison, Justin Jefferson, they've got players that can make big plays if you sort of switch off for a period of time. But you would assume that Cleveland's defensive line will absolutely annihilate that Minnesota offensive line just because of how many players deep into the bench they are. So really, Dylan Gabriel's job is to just not screw it up. Like, don't toss them the ball.
Yes. And look, I've got some concerns about that. When we talked about Gabriel yesterday, I mentioned he had a few plays, just last year at Oregon, some red zone plays against Michigan State or against UCLA where there's some questionable decisions or he's outside of structure and he turns it over. Did that in the preseason as well, whether it's his fault or not. Just got to keep an eye on that with Gabriel. Plus, he's a rookie going up against the Vikings defense. I know they got beat up pretty bad against Pittsburgh last week. I don't think the scoreboard showed the effectiveness of the Steelers offense, how effective they were running the ball, and then how well they picked their spots and created big plays in the pass game. But Minnesota's pass defense as a whole is still very good. And so it's a challenge, obviously, for Gabriel and this Browns offense that has really struggled and have offensive line issues of their own.
Yeah, and I don't know how replicable that Pittsburgh offense is for Dylan Gabriel. Like Aaron Rodgers got the ball out of his hands basically 2 seconds flat every single play, using a bunch of those RPOs / package plays, whatever you want to call them. I don't know that Dylan Gabriel has that in his bag as a debut starter against Brian Flores' defense. And that, unless you are saying, as Kevin Stefanski, as the coach, unless you're basically saying, look, we will dial it up pre-snap, just hit it, right? Just drop, fire. The risk with that is obviously the turnover. So you could probably say, look, we are going to prescribe the throw for you. Don't worry about reading anything. Don't worry about the confusion, the chaos that they're going to show you. Just trust the play call, put the ball in the air, right? Get the ball out in 2 seconds because that's how you mitigate the pass rush and the blitz and all the crazy stuff. The risk with that is if we get it wrong, and remember the communication in the headset cuts off 15 seconds before the start of the play. So the amount of times that Flores' defense is changing significantly between communication ends and ball is snapped. Like, if they change anything and you've called something wrong, you are floating the ball directly to, a Vikings defender, and that's the turnover you can't have.
Yeah, I mean, it's a challenge. It's a challenge for a rookie, but we're over that. Doesn't matter who you start against. Browns off. It'll be interesting too from a Flores perspective, just because the offensive line for Cleveland hasn't been great either. We've got some notes that ended up on your camera by accident. I didn't mean to. I was on your solo shot. Everybody could see it. Look at that.
It's the thing you've been told. You've been warned and told, and this entire thing is set up to prevent you screwing up the show, and you still find a way.
So I got to sit back a little bit. I got to be better. But from a Cleveland offense perspective, I hate this one. My guy Cornelius Lucas, at right tackle, he's given up 10 more pressures than any other offensive lineman. Had a rough couple weeks. Yeah, a rough couple weeks for Cornelius Lucas going up against the Packers and the Lions in particular. Yeah. So now going up against the Vikings and, whether they put Jonathan Grenard, their various pass rushers over him, Jalen Redmond when he kicks outside a little bit. So that's a challenge. On the other hand, you've got this Browns defensive line that we've been raving about creating pressure, and you have Minnesota. Their combined sack rate between J.J. McCarthy and Carson Wentz, 14%. Remember we were just talking about Lamar Jackson being at like 12, 13% over the first few weeks and how awful that is? Well, Minnesota's even higher. 14% of their dropbacks have resulted in a sack. That was a massive issue for Carson Wentz last week. We talk a lot about, hey, it's a pass rush thing, it's a pass blocking thing, but the quarterback's got to get rid of the ball. They control
it's both.
The end result
right.
As much as the blocking. 14% would be the third highest mark since 1990. Yeah. That's a good long time ago.
I mean, Carson Wentz is on the Daniel Jones end of the spectrum in terms of he, I think, makes a bad situation worse when it comes to pressure. Like, there are quarterbacks that work in the opposite direction, and they can hide a lot of problems on the offensive line. And then there are other quarterbacks where when the offensive line is a problem, they magnify the problem. Carson Wentz is that type of quarterback.
Yeah, I think that's fair. So I'm expecting a low-scoring game, as is FanDuel. 35.5 is the over-under. That's where Vegas is on this. Minnesota favored by 3.5. It's a tricky one anytime you have the NFL debut of a rookie.
Yep.
We just saw Jackson Dart. I think we picked against Jackson Dart last week. We both lost because the rookie quarterback came good at home as the underdog against the Chargers.
Yeah, and because of those plays we talked about earlier of like the Dexter Lawrence batted picks interception thing, and like the freaky plays that had to bounce in one direction for those types of things to happen.
Plus the grit factor.
The grit.
Does Dylan Gabriel have the grit factor?
I didn't see until today that his PFF grade for that game was in the 40s. So in addition to
Jackson Dart?
Yeah, in addition to you, me, the anonymous other analysts you spoke to, and now PFF all said that, it was quite a Tim Tebow-ian performance.
Yeah, for Jackson Dart.
He won the game, but played like crap generally.
Justin School probably playing right tackle now for the Vikings. Now, so he was struggling.
The guy that was a liability at left tackle.
At left tackle, and you always wonder, like Myles Garrett still spends most of his time up against left tackle. We talk about this a lot. Like, do you want him going up against Christian Darrisaw, who he can absolutely beat, but he could beat School 10 times.
Every time.
Right.
I mean, Myles Garrett against School should literally be every single rep Myles Garrett wins. Yeah, he can probably get a few wins against Darrisaw and get the better of that matchup because as good as Darrisaw is, Myles Garrett is alien-like. He's on another planet. But I agree. Like, why would you? Like, why sacrifice him at the altar of Christian Darrisaw when you can just move him the other side and literally get a win every rep?
So I've been back and forth on this quite a bit. I don't want to sour on the Minnesota defense at all, just because last week they had been very good against the run over the last couple of years with Flores. I thought they got gashed by Pittsburgh just from like a Pittsburgh getting 4, getting 5, getting 8 when they needed it. We'll see if Cleveland can do that. And if you're a Browns fan, I said on Monday, I think it's an exciting time with this rookie class.
Yeah.
The way they've looked, knowing you've got the 2 first-rounders next year, it's a look to the future and to see if Dylan Gabriel can show signs of life here. So it's Sunday. It's 9:30 a.m. It's in London, Minnesota by 3.5. Where are you going to go with this one?
I'm going to go with the Browns. I feel like that defensive line for Cleveland is going to absolutely destroy Minnesota's offensive line, and it's going to come down to where the big plays come from. It wouldn't shock me if both defenses scored in this game.
Yeah.
That type of thing. And once that's happening, the variance is off the charts, so who knows which way it'll actually land.
I'll also take Cleveland, as will Harry. I hate the uncertainty of the rookie quarterback. I think it's going to be it is 2 really good defenses against who knows what we'll see from Gabriel, but from Wentz in particular, if he gets sacked another 5 or 6 times this week, wouldn't be surprised. So I'm going to lean into that and take the Browns. We're going to jump to Monday Night Football. Kansas City Chiefs at the Jacksonville Jaguars. It is Monday night in Jacksonville in Week 5. Very similar to Week 5, Week 6, 1998. As I said, Fred Taylor coming out party against the Miami Dolphins. Chiefs are favored by 3 here, over under 46.5. Chiefs 2-2. Jags are 3-1, sitting atop the AFC South along with the Colts.
I was going to say, Colts are there too.
Yeah,
I mean, big thing I think is figuring out how much of an asterisk Baltimore's defense is at this point.
Yeah.
Kansas City's offense came to life, looked like the Chiefs of old, and it came at the same time as the return of Xavier Worthy. So, the 2 + 2 equals analysis is really easy. However, the Baltimore Ravens might have the worst defense in the NFL right now because of being bad and everybody being hurt. So how much of that is one, how much of it is the other? Jacksonville's defense has been doing really well, so far this season. So I think we'll get a much better idea of whether this Chiefs resurgence is for real or they just ran up against the worst defense in the league.
It is so tricky looking at early season numbers and trying to glean so there's the numbers, but there's also in that matchup, right? Trying to figure out Kansas City, exactly what you just described, going up against Baltimore a couple weeks ago. The other one that is difficult from an analysis standpoint is like, hey, this Jacksonville defense is doing such a good job forcing turnovers. Great job forcing turnovers. Can you actually keep that up? Can you actually force 3 or 4 turnovers a game as they have been? An incredible run by this Jags defense that had, 9 interceptions or 9 total turnovers last year, whatever it was. It was bad. And then this year they're sitting at like 3 to 4 a game. So that, like against a Kansas City offense that doesn't turn the ball over, can you rely on that? Now, turnovers happen for various reasons, right? You have ball hawks in the secondary, you create pressure, you force fumbles. The Jags have done all of that. I've been really impressed with their pass rush, the different body types that they could throw at you. Dennis the Barbarian Gardeck with a peanut punch. They've forced fumbles. They've had tipped passes for interceptions. I think it's really tough for that defense, though, to rely on that against Kansas City. And then the other part that has me leaning Kansas City here, and again, these are small sample sizes that you don't necessarily want to project forward for the rest of the season. But Trevor Lawrence, not only just overall play, but his play under pressure. He's 10 for 27 passing, 2 drops in there, but 10 for 27 when under pressure. And this Chiefs team is creating a ton of pressure on the defensive side of the ball. They had kind of a slow start against the Chargers in week 1, but they've been good these last few weeks, Kansas City's defense, going up against the Eagles, the Giants, and then last week against the Ravens. They gave up a late touchdown, but they forced Lamar Jackson into a ton of mistakes before he got hurt. It's the same Spags defense, man. It's the same team that is, they're going to send 7 or 8 at times. They're going to disguise and make it feel like 7 or 8 are coming, and it's really 4. And so Lawrence and the Jags have to be better handling pressure, handling the blitz. And at one of these games, my thought on the Jags, it's like, good job getting here. It's a 3-1 on the back of the defense forcing turnovers and everything. And I think you're doing that without a potential star receiver playing anywhere close to his best. And you're doing it with what I still think is a good quarterback in Trevor Lawrence, not playing near his best. So I think at some point in the season, the balance tips the other way. You're not going to force those turnovers. They're tough to bank on. Lawrence and Brian Thomas Jr. will play better, and I think this is the game where they're going to need both of those guys to make some plays.
Yeah, I will say, though, that the thing in that Jags offense that's been perhaps most impressive this year with Liam Cohen installed there as the coach is the run game has taken the biggest leap.
Absolutely.
And Kansas City's defense, as good as it is, has not been that stout against the run. So now it's a little bit it's not quite as clean as that because a lot of the success of that Jags run game has been the explosive plays. So if you don't even need to take that away, but if you sort of cap the impact of those explosive plays, like the down-to-down efficiency is not necessarily as good as it looks overall. But, if the Jags run game can get going against that Spags defense, that will take a lot of the pressure off Trevor Lawrence, which is probably a good thing.
The other matchup, Josh Hines-Allen, you've talked about quite a bit. Is he in this top 4 or 5 edge rush conversation? Maybe not, but he's in that top 7 or 8 conversation.
Yeah.
Yeah, they've moved him around a little bit, so you could have him against Juwan Taylor on the other side. He'll spend most of his time, though, against the rookie Josh Simmons. He's been good overall, I think, for a rookie, but it's still like you can
still a big mismatch,
right?
Yeah, Jags
you can get him a couple times, and then Trayvon Walker week to week with a wrist injury. This is actually one of the games where having Walker, his power, his athleticism, given Mahomes' scrambling ability, I think is actually really valuable. And we'll see if Walker can go. Because I think that is one of the challenges the Jags bring on that defensive line. You have Eric Armstead, you have Trayvon Walker, and you have Hines-Allen. They are difficult to block, different body types, different styles. You've got Van Ginkel there, the Barbarian.
Dennis.
That was from our conversation where we want the Barbarian to play the
profiling.
Full. Yeah, we want the Barbarian to play the full Van Ginkel role. So you have some options there up front, but I think they have to create some pressure. Mahomes was in such a rhythm last week, and that's why you're trying to figure out, okay, is this the old Chiefs or is this the Ravens? The Ravens have really struggled to get any pressure, and when the Chiefs are cooking, he hit the RPO really quickly. He's getting rid of the ball when he fast and on time, Mahomes, decisively, and then have a couple deep shots. They've had, even without the name, I know these stats are going around like, oh, Mahomes didn't have his top 2 receivers. He had a receiver running behind the defense 3 or 4 times per game the first 3 weeks. It just happened to be Tyquan Thornton just because he doesn't have a big name. The Chiefs are still creating explosive play opportunities. Now they have 2 4-2 receivers out there and a 4-3 guy in Marquise Brown. So the big play potential is the best it's been in Kansas City in quite a while.
Yeah, no, it is. Josh Hines-Allen, I will say, I've sort of put him in this bucket generally of guys that are, not quite a defensive player of the year candidate in any given season, but right behind that group. He might actually push himself into that first category, though. Like, he could have a year where actually he is defensive player of the year, and this could be the season. I mean, he's been phenomenal so far this year. He's an absolute wrecking ball. He's, I think, third in the NFL in total pressures. Micah Parsons and Will Anderson Jr. are tied for number one, so he's the next guy up. And against a guy like, a rookie, he could be a game-changing presence.
I love this matchup. Chiefs are fourth in the league in pressure rate by at least a few sources. There are 5 to 10 sources now for pressure rate.
5 to 10.
Yeah, there's at least 5 sources over there, so at least one source has them fourth. And a lot of that's through the blitz.
Yeah.
And then every week we talk about, hey, when Chris Jones gets the one-on-one matchups on the outside, Anton Harrison at right tackle or Walker Little at left tackle, Jags' pass protection's been pretty good as well. I mean, that's the thing about this Jags team. I don't want to harp too much on the turnovers. Run game's been better. Defense looks far better than it has last year, even without the turnovers. Pass protection has been better. Run blocking has been better. Honestly, everything about Jacksonville has been better except for Trevor Lawrence and Brian Thomas Jr.
Except the one thing that everyone expected to be better.
So take that one of two ways, right? They're 3-1 despite that.
Right.
I mean that, and it should get better, right? We've seen far better play from Trevor Lawrence and Brian Thomas Jr. I think that's encouraging, but at some point you want that to tip back the other way. Mm-hmm. And I like what Steve D from Italy says in the chat. I used to say this about Kirk Cousins, right? This is the reason why they paid him all the big money. He says this is why Trevor Lawrence is drafted number 1 overall. And we're just, 3 years removed from playing the Chiefs.
And paid the money.
Right? Drafted number 1 overall, paid the money, go out and make some big plays and win this game.
Yeah. One other player worth mentioning is linebacker Devin Lloyd for the Jags. I don't know if he's just the streakiest linebacker in the NFL, but his elite play is best linebacker in the NFL elite, and yet then he has stretches where he doesn't look good at all. Right now he's having one of those stretches where he looks like the best linebacker in the NFL. If that continues, rather than just being a blip at the start of this season, if that continues, and I think it's a contract year for him, right? So there's incentive for it to continue.
Yeah, and Lloyd is multiple coaching staffs I think have been hot and cold.
I mean, remember his rookie season, he began the year again for 3 or 4 games he was the best graded linebacker in football as a rookie, and then it just fell apart and he never looked like that guy again for the rest of that year. I don't know if he's just every now and again he has a 3 or 4 game stretch where he does that, or if he's generally streaky or whatever. Point is, right now he's playing he's in that Fred Warner category of this guy can change games on his own right now. If that continues, that's potentially a difference maker. I mean, you start to stack up some legitimate difference makers that Jacksonville has on defense if that's the case. Yeah,
between Lloyd and Foye Oluokun, tons of potential there. Both guys making plays and having a pretty good season so far. And the middle of the defense, when you talk about the conflict that the Chiefs offense puts you in, those linebackers are crucial. And at the granular level, what so many of these games come down to 4th down decisions and everything, and the number of times that the Chiefs just roll Mahomes out on 4th and 1, 4th and 2 on key plays. I mean, this game could come down to something like that, where one of those linebackers is in conflict. The athleticism of Lloyd or Oluokun could come down to, do you attack the quarterback? Do you stay in coverage? Make that one play to seal the game. So I think there's going to be, opportunities for those linebackers to make some plays against this Chiefs offense. They're going to need to. All right, man. Chiefs, are they back? They're 2-2. Sky isn't falling as much, but, narrative-wise, I brought this up last week. If they do lose, if the Chiefs do lose on Monday Night Football, come back on a short week and host the Lions, then, you're facing a 2-4 start, despite the positivity coming out of the Ravens game. So just, as worth noting here for the Chiefs, right, as they started 0-2, so you're facing these uncharted waters a little bit if you slip up. Chiefs are favored by 3 here, though, Monday Night Football.
I mean, that would be of more concern, I think, if the Chargers had won last week against the Giants and were 4-0, and you'd be like, man, maybe the division's going. As things are, they would still be within reasonable touching distance of the Chargers. Denver hasn't taken control of that division. Like, they're still okay. But yes, it wouldn't be a great situation to be in. I am at least going to buy for 1 week the resurgence of this offense and say it wasn't just the fact that they played the Ravens. And actually, it looked different. I mean, it did. It looked different. The question is, was it just Baltimore? So I'm buying the Chiefs to cover this.
I'll also take the Chiefs, and Harry will take the Chiefs as well. I just want to reiterate really quick. Sometimes Jacksonville, they get hated on as a fan base and everything. There's a good, with the team playing well, and there's a good history. They show up to these primetime games. Not just my late 90s Jags history. They'll show up. So I think stadium's going to be bumping. I think it'll be a fun atmosphere for Chiefs-Jags on Monday night. Should be a fun one.
Yeah, fun.
Before we get to Tampa Bay and Seattle, Sunday at 4, tell everybody about our memberships and what we have going on here.
Yeah, we got memberships are live for our YouTube subscribers, for our YouTube fans. If you consume the podcast that way, good time to be you. We got 3 tiers. Our first tier, we call them super fans. We have yet to rename them to mic checkers or anything else that's been suggested. I'm kind of on the fence about which way to go. Either way works. Anyway, you get yourself a merchandise discount. You get yourself access to members-only streams. We were doing our watch-along on Thursday from the couch set over there for members only. So tons of fun stuff there. The next tier is our insider tier, and that's where you get your name literally written on the wall of the Check the Mic studio, not any other brand. Name written right up on the wall over there by my very own hand, on the
good handwriting. Good handwriting.
We've got a fairly large surface area, so we can accommodate quite a lot of these members. And then the final tier is our Howard Hughes billionaire tier for anyone that's been listening to the show long enough to get that reference. And so far, the impact of the Howard Hughes billionaire tier has been to literally rename this studio to
the Antonio Cromartie studio in part with Huggies.
There you go.
That's where we are. Until someone else jumps. JT, maybe you could jump into the billionaire tier.
Absolutely.
JT O'Sullivan's in the chat here.
There is also a Check the Mic merchandise package on its way to our billionaire right now. Now, apparently it's on its way in several packages as opposed to one. They don't, wait until it's all ready. And
so all the merch is just
individual,
one by one?
Right, individual little pieces all heading his way. Anyway, tons of fun stuff. You can click on the little join button, or what is it sometimes renamed to?
Subscribe or join.
Anyway, you'll find it in the YouTube. Join, subscribe. You can check the membership list. You can see the perks available, and sign up and join the crowd.
All right, let's go Tampa Bay Bucks at the Seattle Seahawks, Sunday, 4:05. Oh, it should be a 4:25 game. What are you doing, NFL? Seahawks by 3 here. Fun game here. Bucks coming off their first loss, and Seahawks coming off a nice win last Thursday night against Arizona. Can Sam Darnold in Seattle keep it up against Tampa Bay? Tampa Bay very banged up still. Even with players coming back, there's as many players leaving. Bucky Irving banged up. Mike Evans out for a few weeks still. It is rough injury-wise for the Bucs right now.
It is, yeah. And they're a little bit like San Francisco in terms of, the record is really good, but you're kind of a little bit concerned by the underlying fact that everybody's hurt. But they keep finding a way of at least, they didn't win last week, but they hung tough and almost came back and made it happen. They are finding a way of keeping in these games and keeping it competitive. And, they are at least theoretically getting all these guys back. San Francisco, Baltimore, they've at least got one hugely key player on that isn't coming back. It's already done for the year. Tampa Bay, okay, they're banged up, everyone's hurt, but they're all coming back at some point. So the Bucs just need to not even keep their head above water, but win enough of these games that once they do get everyone back, they're still in position to be where they want to be, which is minimum win the division, even if they're not necessarily in the hunt for the number 1 seed or whatever.
I think in their case, it's a credit to their depth. It's a credit to, I was dropping the stat last week about Baker Mayfield's total EPA when under pressure. I haven't seen the updated number on it, but last week it was 12 to no one else is even positive or barely over positive. The number of key scrambles that Baker Mayfield's had, A little bit of turnover luck that I just keep reciting because it is amazing how it is. It's rolling in their favor right now. But I think the depth that the Bucs have built has helped keep them afloat quite a bit. And then you hit on it's why you just keep hitting on draft picks. Again, whether they seem like needs or not just Emeka Egbuka being able to step in at receiver, Jacob Parrish, what he's done at corner. He's on everybody's all-rookie team through 4 weeks here. So he's playing really good football as a third rounder out of Kansas State. So they've added a ton of depth and been able to stay afloat here despite all the injuries. I think it'll be a challenge. Again, last week was the Eagles' defensive line. This offensive line going up against the Seattle defensive front.
Yeah, which will be a challenge. They are much better on that offensive line just with Tristan Wirfs returning and being able to upgrade a couple of spots along that offensive line. It is, Baker Mayfield's performance this year has kind of been insane because you're right. You have to at least factor in he's ridden his luck a bit when it comes to turnovers. And that it's not necessarily a knock on him. It's just a reality, right? He's gotten a bit lucky when it comes to turnovers. He has also, though, done really quite remarkable things when you consider how bad that offensive line has been. He's been top 10 in terms of pressure to sack rate, and that's a quarterback-driven thing. And when your pressure rate is through the roof because your offensive line is banged up, Baker Mayfield has not always been good at that, right? And actually, you would have said the longer this goes, the more concerned I would be that Baker Mayfield does not play well in those situations. And yet he has. He's also had an extremely high average depth of target. So one of the ways you typically see quarterbacks try and mitigate a bad offensive line is the Rodgers way last week, right? Get the ball out instantly. That's correlated with depth of target. It's usually get the ball out quick and shallow, right, towards the line of scrimmage. Instead, Baker's been getting this done with the high variance stuff. Like he's been getting it done with a deep average depth of target, with crazy performance on third and fourth down, with scrambling, with all the stuff that you're not supposed to be able to maintain for any period of time. And he's been doing that to an extremely high level. I would not say without major mistakes, because the major mistakes have been in there, but he's gotten lucky with the major mistakes sometimes. So it's been really quite impressive for Mayfield kind of keeping their heads above water until that line improves. And now hopefully with Wirfs back, it can settle back in to kind of, he gets a bit more help.
Yeah, I agree on that part being impressive, and the fact that, he's led those fourth quarter comebacks and, got to have it situations on key fourth downs, key third downs, moving the chains however they can. You also have the fun 2018 NFL draft narrative. Baker Mayfield, number 1 overall. Sam Darnold, number 3. Former teammates in Carolina. Yeah. We are getting the road creamsicle against the Seahawks blue, the
road
old school blue.
Again.
Yeah, we're getting like a straight up 1987 uniform matchup
and
here.
It's just better than the normal.
And it's just better. Yeah. It'll be an all-timer as far as the uniform matchup.
Throwback,
the only thing it's missing is the Kingdome. That's the only thing missing here.
The throwback Seahawks uniforms are legitimately some of my favorite in the NFL. They are so much better than what you wear normally.
And this is important analysis that people need. I'm trying to paint a picture for what you're going to see Sunday.
Well, we knew the second they were, wearing road creamsicles, that was, how could they lose? If
JT is in the chat, I am curious his take on Seattle's end here with Sam Darnold. Are we getting? I've been calling it the classic, old school Shanahan Kubiak type of passing game. In our crack research staff over here at 33rd Team, confirming that a little bit. Seattle averaging 11.6 yards per play on play action, and also the longest or furthest average depth of target in the league at 15 when using play action. So when they have run play action with Sam Darnold, the deep post to Jackson Smith and Jigba, they're getting the ball down the field, and it is as I've said a few times, low volume, high value passing attack right now in Seattle. Even with the running game kind of being hit or miss, it's better when the run game's hitting, but the pass game has been very efficient. Darnold playing confident, good football so far through 4 weeks.
No, he has. He's been really impressive. And I think, between this and last season, you have to conclude that Darnold is just good now. The only question is, again, based off last season, what prompts the implosion? Can a team cause that to happen? And if so, how? I don't know that the Bucs defense, even with Todd Bowles, aggressive blitzing, etc., I don't know that they can bring enough heat to cause the Darnold implosion.
Other thing to keep an eye on here, Seattle's run game, as I said, and then Bucky Irving and potential injury there. It looks like it'll be Rachaad White and Sean Tucker. Remember Tucker came in last year?
They're still good in the backfield even without him, I think. But it's a big loss. Obviously.
He was fantastic, just brings a different style. But, I mean, Bucky Irving, what he does in the pass game, creating something out of nothing and creating big plays, that is a big loss for Tampa Bay. The 1-2 punch now, it's Chris Godwin and Emeka Egbuka. So, they're getting players back as they're losing players as well. I don't know if Tampa Bay is just too banged up, though, to keep this going. All right, man, we've got Seattle by 3, over under 44.5. I think it'll be a good game. This is one of the games of the week here. A couple 3-1 teams.
Yeah, if for no other reason than that uniform combination. I am going with the Seahawks, though, to win and cover that line.
Yeah, I'm torn on this one. As soon as I was typing in Seattle earlier today, I was like, nah, but Baker, fourth quarter. He's going to do it again.
Leads the NFL in deep shots, like deep pass attempts. Baker is just YOLOing his way through this.
26 20-plus yard air attempts.
Yeah, with a really high average at the target. Like Baker's just out here going, you know what? What's the worst that could happen? Like I said, last week, the touchdown to Egbuka, that's the clear-out route. You're not supposed to throw that. And Baker's just like, what the hell? I see some safety. The safeties are slightly far apart. Let's take a shot. And he hits it.
I'll take the Bucs. I'm going to take the Bucs. Harry's going to take the Seahawks. My initial instinct was Seattle. I've been high on Seattle this entire season. I think they might be headed for a showdown with the Rams in that division. But I'll take the Bucs to cover as 3-point underdogs this week, and Harry will take Seattle here. Washington Commanders at the Los Angeles Chargers. Chargers favored by 2.5. This one's Sunday at 4:25. Over under 48.5 from our friends over at FanDuel. Another fun matchup. We should get Jaden Daniels back, right?
Yeah,
for the Commanders. And then the Chargers coming off of their disappointing loss against the Giants, where their offensive line's been completely banged up. They're down to, it's not really third string left tackle, but kind of is. They're maybe the best or second best tackle duo in the entire NFL. Rashawn Slater and Joe Alt, both injured now. Alt should be a few weeks, I believe. But you could see the Chargers struggling last week against that Giants defensive line.
Yeah, it did. That was the Chargers' offensive line is sort of in the Minnesota Vikings offensive line territory in terms of how many players they're missing, how important those players are, and the impact that it made. You would say, though, that the Giants are one of the worst teams in the NFL to have that situation in.
Yes.
The Washington don't have the same level of destruction on their defensive line. So you're like, well, okay, where's the line that this offensive line can survive against? Is it Washington's, or is this still going to be a problem?
Yeah, I think that's a fair question. I mean, Washington's defense is, I think they're a little hit or miss for me. They're playing a ton of man coverage, which I think, that's a Dan Quinn staple these last few years. Playing a lot of man coverage, that makes them a little bit more volatile. I think that if the Chargers can protect Herbert better than they did last week, they have the receivers to create those mismatches. Quentin Johnston's still making a ton of plays. They have the receivers to make Washington pay. But the Chargers are banged up in the offensive line. Secondary, Derwin James, Tarheeb Still, they're questionable as well. So just something to keep an eye on there.
Yeah. I think if the Chargers' offensive line can survive, you would like them. Like the one key thing that's happened so far is that Justin Herbert hasn't been hurt, and Justin Herbert healthy, looks like one of the best quarterbacks in the NFL. If the offensive line and the weight of pressure he's under starts to actually make an impact in terms of now he's banged up, that's when you get real problems.
So then you have Jaden Daniels coming back. We saw him against the Giants in week 1 and the Packers in week 2. And against the Packers, it was rough. That was another one of those. Micah Parsons is blowing up every single play. Washington couldn't get any rhythm going on offense. And I think so Jaden Daniels has been okay. We haven't seen much of Jaden Daniels or answered the question, will there be any year 2 regression, or will there be this other step forward that Jaden Daniels takes into the MVP conversation? No information on that yet. But that'll be something interesting to take a look at against this Chargers pass defense, which is still really good, right? They lost to Dart and the Giants last week, but they don't give up a lot on the back end. They've played really well in the back seven, the Chargers. So I think that's a challenge for the pass game. Plus, Terry McLaurin missed last week. Is he going to be back? Debo's on, questionable. The entire receiving core for the Commanders. Like, we're at this point in the season where teams have full position groups as questionable, and we're sitting here on Thursday morning trying to predict what's going to happen. We don't even know who's going to be playing.
Yeah, the Chargers' coverage has been spectacular. I mean, they have allowed the second lowest passer rating to opposing quarterbacks in the NFL so far this season. Only Jacksonville's defense has been better in that regard. So they're kind of at opposite ends of the spectrum when it comes to that part of the game. Like Washington's defense, they'll allow you some passing success. The Chargers' defense generally makes life extremely hard from a passing perspective.
You've got the rookie running back matchup.
Bill
Krosky-Merritt and Omarion Hampton.
Nice.
Right? Just like Omarion Hampton had to go head-to-head with Cam Scatteraboo last week. Probably the two best rookie running backs.
Yeah, I mean, Hampton's looked really good. Bill, I feel like Washington, again, you've said it before, like it's always down to pass protection, right? When you trust the guy as a pass blocker, almost dictates how much playing time he's going to get at all. At some point, you have to just sort of look at it and say, this is by far our best running back, though. Let's just give him more workload.
Just want to give you, Sam Hoppin on Twitter does a really good job putting multiple stats together to just be able to make some comparisons. So what's his actual handle? Follow him. At Sam Hoppin, Hoppen.
There you go. Pretty easy.
Interesting dynamic on Justin Herbert. Number 7 in PFF grade at 78.6. And then I don't always love attaching EPA per play to the quarterback's name, but it is informative as, production through the quarterback. 23rd in EPA per play. Would you be surprised to see Justin Herbert at 23rd after the early season, the game against the Chiefs, the key plays that he's made, the way he was, some of the big throws that he's made, and in crunch time that he's 23rd. He's behind C.J. Stroud and Bo Nix in EPA per play now. I think that's when you're 7th in PFF grade, which is isolating the quarterback's play, and then you're 23rd in EPA per play, which is more about the entire offense, including the line. I think you're seeing the differences there and how I think the line has started to really fall apart there.
Yeah, and so that's why I wouldn't be massively surprised by it, because once the line started to fall apart, the passing game did kind of dry up, and like an almost pick six against the Giants where it's batted up in the air and picked off, like that's a body blow to the EPA, even if it's not necessarily a Justin Herbert play.
There was the 2 interceptions that he threw the other day. Yeah, batted pass by Dexter Lawrence to himself.
Right.
And then receiver gets cut off on a route. Herbert's got to throw it blind, right to Phillips. Those are the plays that, absolutely show up from a production standpoint and not necessarily are on the quarterback. So Chargers offense, I think, is at a bit of a crossroads right now, trying to figure out. I mean, Hampton looks better every single week, and I wonder how much they can lean into him against this Commanders defense.
I mean, it's really a case of, is this offensive line now going to be a disaster against everybody or only against teams that are as good as the Giants up front? That's kind of what this game comes down to. If Herbert is still under a ton of pressure and they're not able to get anything going this week, well, then you're like, okay, unfortunate as it is, the Chargers may already be toast.
So many data points. There was one other. Hold on, we gotta get it here. Here we go. Yeah, Washington second in man coverage rate. That's been a little hit or miss for them. Do the Chargers do they have the time to get guys open against them?
And by the way, the chart for the Chargers, the Joe Alt injury is not a long-term one. He's probably going to miss this game, but isn't done for the year.
No, it's weeks, not it's weeks, not months,
right,
for Joe Alt.
Like they're getting
but for right now, this could be an issue. Keep an eye on Washington being able to exploit that. A lot of the numbers that I'm looking at have me leaning Washington. Chargers favored by 2.5 here Sunday at 425. Where are you going to go?
I'm going to go with the Chargers. I think Washington's defensive line, the pressure they can bring, will not be enough to do the same thing that happened to the Giants. And if that's the case, I think the Chargers are better.
All right, I'll take Washington. Don't love it. I'll take Washington as well. 10-year-old Harry. FanDuel's getting you ready for the NFL season with an offer you don't want to miss. New customers can bet just $5 and get $300 in bonus bets if you win. That's right, you pick a bet, you bet $5, and if it wins, you'll unlock $300 in bonus bets to use all across the app. Build parlays, bet player props, ride the live lines, whatever your style, FanDuel has you covered. The NFL season's here. The only question is, are you ready to play? FanDuel.com/CTM. That's where you got to go. FanDuel.com/CTM. Download the FanDuel app today and get started. Must be 21 plus and present in select states. For Kansas in affiliation with Kansas Star Casino, or 18 plus and present in D.C., Kentucky, or Wyoming. First online real money wager only. $5 first deposit required. Bonus issued is non-withdrawable bonus bets, which expire 7 days after receipt. Restrictions apply. See terms at sportsbook.fanduel.com. Gambling problem? Call 1-800-GAMBLER or visit fanduel.com/RG. Call 1-888-789-7777 or visit ccpg.org/chat in Connecticut or visit mdgamblinghelp.org in Maryland. Hope is here. Visit gamblinghelplinema.org or call 800-327-5050 for 24/7 support in Massachusetts, or call 1-877-8-HOPE-NY or text HOPE-NY in New York. And today, we got a prop bet for tonight's game. Yesterday, we talked about Stafford's passing yard prop bet. I think we both chose the under or the over there for Stafford. Tonight, Christian McCaffrey, 49ers running back, over-under is 61.5 rushing yards. Can the Niners get the run game going against this Rams defense with no receivers on the field here for the Niners?
Yeah, it's such a fascinating one because on the one hand, he's basically the only body left standing for the 49ers offense and one of their best players anyway, even when everybody's healthy. You would assume that everything has to go through McCaffrey. But that's also a reason that a defense is going to be like focusing on McCaffrey and nothing else for the entirety of this game. Which way does that go?
It's always a game flow question. It's not a how good is the player.
Well, that's a new development. The train has decided to start sounding horn as it goes by.
I hope it's not because somebody's on the tracks.
That would be bad.
Yeah. So McCaffrey, 61.5 here. I mean, I lean over on all of these. Do you get out of the game flow here and it's like, all right, Mac Jones is going to start throwing the ball 40, 45 times.
Yeah.
I think they're going to try.
But even then, that's going to change the way they use McCaffrey, but even then, you would assume it still runs through him just in the pass game.
And I still look at this Rams defense, and as Verse is a hammer against the run and everything. They're still undersized at defensive tackle, and teams can have some success, running up the middle against this Rams defense. I'll lean over here for McCaffrey because you might get one of those opening drives, like the Jets had the other night, and eventually they came out of that game flow, but that could knock out a chunk of the rushing yards.
McCaffrey is so good that even with a defense focusing on him, it feels like if you have to give him 25 carries in a game, one of them's going to go for a decent chunk of yardage.
So you're going to go over as well?
Yes.
Both going over. McCaffrey 61.5. Good news. Nobody can hear the train beeping, which is great. Denver Broncos at the Philadelphia Eagles Sunday at 1. Eagles playing some big 1 o'clock games here against teams. Rams, Bucks, and now the Broncos.
Yeah.
Eagles are favored by 4.5. They're undefeated, 4-0 against the 2-2 Denver Broncos. Over under just 43.5. The Eagles are in this world where every stat about them is a massive anomaly.
Yeah. Was it true? I think it was one of the tweets I saw that they've been outgained in every game so far this year.
4-0. That's the first time in history. I saw one of their beat writers with a very nuanced take because we've seen the Eagles the last 2 years. Reminder, in 2023, they started 10-1. And even though things didn't seem right, they kept winning. And they were winning against good teams. They beat the Chiefs. They beat the Bills. They were beating good teams before they collapsed in the second half. And then last year, I believe they started 2-2 and didn't lose after that, or whatever it was, or lost once with Kenny Pickett. But they started 2-2. But Saquon looked great early on. Like everything seemed better last year for the Eagles early on. But they also evolved and grew as they went and won a Super Bowl. So like which Eagles team is this, right? Like if you're going to sit here, do you sit here and nitpick a 4-0 team? They're being outgained. A.J. Brown's tweeting cryptic stuff. He's not he's not getting targeted enough in certain games. He's not being productive in other games. Saquon's averaging about 3 yards a pop. Jalen Hurts isn't throwing the ball down the field. The defense gave up 2 70-yarders last week. Do you nitpick this team and say, well, this is unsustainable? Or do you say, man, as I say every week, the Eagles have multiple ways to win. I've seen this pass game be good before. I have faith in A.J. Brown and Devontae Smith and Jalen Hurts. I've seen Saquon create big plays. I have faith in him figuring it out. And I've seen Vic Fangio, lead this defense and, the back 7 additions that they've had the last couple of years. I think they'll be absolutely fine. So I think the analysis on this Eagles team is fascinating right now for a 4-0 team where the underlying metrics don't match whatsoever.
Yeah, it's interesting because I don't think that just because the Eagles have shown that they can that they've had a good offense before with this same group of personnel, you would say, well, there's nothing to worry about here. This is just a weird run or statistical anomaly or blah, blah, blah. Because we've seen this offense struggle as well. Like, they've had quite a lot of continuity in terms of personnel, not necessarily with the coaching, and they've gone through a lot of iterations where there have been stretches where this offense has looked problematic before. Okay, a lot of the times that's involved an injury to A.J. Brown or, key personnel. But I think there have been times where it just hasn't looked great. But I think where the difference is that you wouldn't say just because it's struggling now means it can't be good in January, right? Like that part is fine. So I think it could be a problem. That there have definitely been stretches where this offense has looked rudimentary, where they don't necessarily have a ton of answers in the passing game, and where it tends to come down to just one-on-one ISO routes on the outside, and let's just give A.J. Brown a chance. And generally when you give A.J. Brown a chance, he's too physically imposing for a lot of defenders to go one-on-one with and win. So I think it could definitely be the case that this is not an offense in good shape right now. And yet they found ways of winning and blocked kicks and stuff like that. But, Denver's defense is one of the best in the league. They get a ton of pressure. They're going to cause some issues. So at some point, some of the best stretches this offense has been in is where Jalen Hurts, taps into his inner Baker Mayfield and just goes YOLO, right? What if I just start throwing the ball down the field and see what happens?
Yeah, and it's not just jump balls or anything like that. He can make some downfield throws. Hurts is a unique quarterback in many ways, right? Just the fact that you've got the tush-push thing. You have this slower style for the Eagles where it's just get to 3rd and 1, and we know we're going to convert, and we're going to, play off that. But we've also seen Hurts. There's certain quarterbacks who I think do get streaky. I think Herbert has these on-off streaks. Josh Allen early in his career had these. Hurts has these as well, and I think it hits the entire offense. The number of times, even when the Eagles are winning a lot, that I say – they scored 28 in the first half and nothing in the second half. Did they let their foot off the gas? What was it? Or in the Rams case, it went the other way, right? Slow early, great late. Why does this offense get so inconsistent? And then Hurts is unique in this other way with the papers.
Yes.
He's got the lowest rate of intermediate pass attempts in the last 10 years. Only 8%. So what's unique about this? Why does this matter? That's the 10 to 19 yard range. That is the range where most quarterbacks make their money, right? That is where you don't see NFL offenses not attack that area, right? And they haven't at this low of a rate in about 10 years. College, you see that sometimes, right? You see offenses that are hitches and screens in the short game, and then chuck it downfield. Baylor type offenses. Right? Let's just take shots. So it's unique to the NFL to have that boom or bust of a passing game, right? Where it's a bunch of short passes, and then, hey, when we throw down the field, we're really throwing the ball down the field. But that 10 to 19 range is not open. And you have two guys that are really good at getting open there in A.J. Brown and Devontae Smith. And Dallas Goedert when he's healthy. I know he's banged up. So it's just an interesting time for the Eagles. And I say all that to say, I have more confidence in them figuring it out because I've seen them do it. So I think they'll be fine there.
What do you make of the relative lack of impact of Saquon Barkley, last year's, superstar 2,000-yard rusher? I guess the obvious and biggest difference is you spent all last season talking about how the man was individually responsible for half of the explosive running plays in the NFL, or whatever the stat was, less than half, but big. They basically don't exist so far this year.
I think that's part of it. I think that's a big part of it. So on one hand, 60-yard plays are fluky, right? Fluky as it takes skill, but it's really hard to just be hey, Saquon, if you could just, you don't just dial up the 60-yard run. It's got to come together. The other part is the Eagles. They lost Mekhi Becton at right guard. He had some key blocks on those plays. Their interior run blocking, I don't think, has been the same as last year. Landon Dickerson's playing through injury and the whole thing. So there's a combination of things. And even their offense last year, right? This has been Saquon's entire career where he'll have 20 carries for 40 yards, but if you just rattle off a 60, the average is good. He doesn't have the 60s right now.
His current longest run this season is 29 yards, which is 26th in the NFL.
Yeah, and last year, I don't I mean, the percentage of his yards that came on breakaways was probably, I don't know what the percentage would be,
but it was huge.
A massive number.
The point
and
is,
if you just eliminate that, it's like the same running game minus the explosives.
Yeah.
And it's not exactly that, because I think it's a little less
definitely
efficient
worse.
too.
Yeah.
He's also run into games like they've been running the clock. They did it against the Chiefs. They were trying to run the clock. They've been up in a lot of these games. The Cowboys were putting extra bodies up against him in week 1. So the averages are down. So I'm not terribly concerned about that. On one hand, it's like, well, maybe those show up every now and then. But they haven't to this point. So that's what I mean. Like, the Eagles are kind of like what I said about the Jags. The fact that they're 4-0, despite not getting the best from A.J. Brown outside of a half, despite not getting the best from Saquon Barkley, I think that's actually encouraging for the Eagles. And I would lean toward it's more of a positive than a negative at this point, that the underlying metrics don't lead to what should be a 4-0 team.
Yeah, I mean, I think we know that the ceiling is higher, obviously, because they've been better than this before. But I do think that, they need to get more creative in order to tap into the best performance of these superstar athletes they have.
Now, they're playing the Broncos. I know we spent a lot of time on the Eagles. Broncos coming off the Monday night domination against the Bengals. The Denver pass rush, as good as it gets this year. Nick Bonito continues to get better. Jonathan Cooper has been outstanding. You have Zach Allen.
Sacks, I think, already. Leads the league again, having led the league last year in sacks on
Who's
defense.
That?
Denver.
Oh, Denver. I thought you were saying Bonito. Yeah. They've been incredible. Can they do the same thing against Philadelphia? I mean, you don't get the same drop back pass game. They're not going to have a sitting duck,
right?
Like a Jake Browning.
And they're going up against very good offensive
with the
line.
same offensive tackles, but they've shown that they can create a ton of havoc. I will say that where Denver struggled this year, the one game where that defense struggled was against Shane Steichen and the Colts offense, which creates a lot more trickeration. I use trickeration a lot more misdirection, play action. We'll play a lot more the Eagles style because that's where
it has similar characteristics, not just in terms of the stylistic schematic matchup because Steichen has a history there, but like you start listing the things. You've got a very, very good running back in Jonathan Taylor in the backfield. You've got a pretty damn good offensive line. You've got a quarterback that's got a rushing threat to him as well as part of the design game as well as the drop back pass game. And you've got receiving weaponry on the outside. Like there's a lot of similarities between the Colts offense and the Eagles offense.
I would also say Sean Payton, like Bo Nix has been up and down from a performance standpoint, absolutely coming off of his best game against Cincinnati Monday night. I feel like since the middle of last year, Sean Payton has made a massive impact on this offense. I didn't feel the impact of Sean Payton through the Russell Wilson experiments, maybe through the first half of last year. I felt like there was a turning point where Payton, all of a sudden, there are open receivers, whether it's our guy Troy Franklin, whether it's Marvin Mims, there are open receivers behind the defense. There are easy buttons, some schemed up plays, some mismatches created. I think that's going to be a fascinating matchup against Fangio's defense, which, again, the versatility that they've added with Cooper DeJean and Jahad Campbell, who we broke down in some detail yesterday, and the flexibility that he's brought from a coverage perspective as a rookie linebacker. Love this matchup. And can Denver continue to dial up, free up Troy Franklin, free up Marvin Mims, get their running game going again as they did on Monday night with J.K. Dobbins and R.J. Harvey. That's a really interesting matchup that I think ends up determining this game.
Yeah, J.K. Dobbins, who's been fantastic this year again. That dude is such a great story in the NFL.
Oh, yeah.
I mean, he has gone through so many major, major injuries, like things that normally would derail a running back's career. And they have derailed his multiple times. And every time he just comes back and he's still really good. Like, it's nuts. We've got, multiple running backs in the NFL where they deal with one serious injury and they're never the same again. Every time J.K. Dobbins has a serious injury, he comes back, maybe for a different team, and he's still immediately an impact playmaker and a difference maker for that side. I love watching that guy run. Bo Nix has had, I think, two major problems so far this year. Number one, he's gone back to that, very, very iffy with the deep ball in terms of the efficiency and how often he's actually connecting with those because they've had guys open a lot again, and he's just not hitting them at an unacceptable rate, even relative to the low percentage pass that is. And then the other thing is he's kind of gone back to being early rookie season Bo Nix in terms of one of the lowest average depths of target in the NFL. And despite that, we're not super efficient on the short stuff either. Again, according to Sam Hoppin's composite QB stat stuff, he is 32nd in the NFL in clean pocket success rate. So, like, you got a super low average depth of target. You're not pushing the ball down the field very often. When you are, you're missing those throws.
Because Broncos' pass protection has been really good.
Right. So at the very minimum, if you're going to be kept clean and you're generally skewing towards low, high percentage plays anyway, you've got to be pretty efficient there. And he's not. He's one of the worst quarterbacks in the league at that stuff. So, I mean, that's just bad.
And that brings me to my other point on this one. The Eagles rushing 5 this year. Great stat from 33rd team, research team. When they're rushing 5 or more, they're allowing just 2.1 yards per play. That's where Denver has struggled. They're at only 4.3 yards per play. So that's Denver's at their worst against 5+. Philly's at their best, sending 5 or more. You've got Zach Bond. You have Jahad Campbell, the flexibility that Fangio has now.
Yeah.
Philly and Denver. Philly's defense worse when they're just rushing 4, believe it or not. Denver's defense, our offense, better against 4. So the add-on rusher, whether it's Campbell, Bond.
Campbell's been a big part of that.
Yes.
I mean, this is a guy, I remember, who was being talked about as potentially a defensive line convert at draft time by some people. And then when the Eagles drafted him, there was that period of time where it was fuzzy what his role would be. Were they actually going to line him up as basically a defensive end, or, no, he's going to be – but they're using him as a true off-the-ball linebacker who will be a real value add as an add-on blitzer. And he's already gotten quite a chunk of pressure doing that. So, yeah, huge help with him for that pass game.
Really fun matchup, both sides of the ball. Lane Johnson, questionable. We know he's been banged up and out of the lineup at various points during this season. Just something else to keep an eye on for Philly. Philly remains, not just because they're the defending Super Bowl champions and they haven't lost a game in Jalen Hurts is like 18-0 in his last 18 starts that he's started and finished. Whatever that number just keeps rising. They find ways to win. And then one more shout out to Moro Ojomo, who is living up to the Philly fan hype and having a great season so far with Jalen Carter and Jordan Davis on the interior.
Despite you questioning him the entire
Never questioned him. He was an old model guy, man. Why would I question him? All right, man. Eagles by 4.5 here.
Yeah.
In all these big games the Eagles are playing, Sunday at 1. Big game, Sunday at 1. 43.5 over under. Where are you going to go with this one?
I'm going with the Eagles, and I kind of hate that.
Yeah.
I do think Denver's defense will cause them problems, and I do think there are real issues within that offense, but I just have no confidence in Bo Nix.
Yeah, I'll take Philly as well. For a team that's being outgained and isn't, dominating these games and is winning by a couple points here and there.
It's also, by the way, it's weird that the distribution of that sort of futility it's not even. It's not like they're just constantly struggling. It's like they go okay for a half and then they just nothing in the next half. Like the last 2 games, the first half they had 18 or 17 passing yards, and then last week you were saying in the second half they had negative team passing yards because of the sacks.
Right.
Which means that in order for them to have had like a half-decent overall production, the other halves were good.
And that's been a Jalen Hurts feature across multiple coordinators.
Yeah.
Right, where I've been on the show many times questioning why was the first half completely different than the second half, or why did it go stale, or whatever it is. I'm still taking Philly, as is Harry, to cover the 4.5 here. Broncos fans are going to hate us with this analysis. They're going to hate it. Houston Texans at the Baltimore Ravens. Texans are favored by 1.5 in Baltimore because we do have a Lamar Jackson injury. Cooper Rush getting the start here for Baltimore. Over under just 40.5. So you're 1-3 Texans, 1-3 Baltimore Ravens in Baltimore. Banged up Baltimore defense.
Seriously banged up. Against
a Houston offense that still hasn't really found it. Found a bit of a running game last week with Woody Marks and Nick Chubb as a 1-2 punch. I will continue to pound the table for the rookie Iowa State receivers to just get more opportunities for the Houston Texans.
Incredibly banged up. The injury report for the Baltimore Ravens yesterday included Chidobe Awuzie, Kyle Hamilton, Marlon Humphrey, Lamar Jackson, Emory Jones, a tackle, Travis Jones, the nose tackle, Tyler Linderbaum, Patrick Ricard, Roquan Smith, Ronnie Stanley, Brent Urban, Kyle Van Noy, Tez Walker, and Nate Wiggins. Not only is that a large injury list, but it's also quite a lot of really important players, and that doesn't even factor in guys like Matabike, who's just done for the year and shut down already.
Is that every starter?
I mean, it's not every starter, but it's a lot of important players for them.
I'm losing track. Did Marlon Humphrey just get shut down for a bit?
So it's like this is one of the most banged up teams in the NFL.
Humphrey's doubtful.
Yeah.
So he had a calf injury. You mentioned Ronnie Stanley?
Yep.
Okay.
Yeah. I mean, that's, they're starting corners. Kyle Hamilton, they're all-pro safety.
Humphrey and Roquan Smith,
pass rusher.
They both left the Chiefs game. Roquan Smith and Humphrey, they're both doubtful. Not even
right. I didn't even break it down by how limited they were. But yes, those are just all the people on the injury report, many of whom are significant injuries, significant doubts for this game, and super important players.
And by the way, when all of those kind of big-name players, or at least name-recognized players, have been out there, no team's given up more points than the Ravens.
Right.
Now, the counterpoint that we've brought up before, they played the Bills, they played the Lions, and they played the Chiefs.
Yeah.
And the Browns. But they played three, which should be good offenses, top 5 to 10 offenses, if not, top 3. So that's a factor in how bad the Ravens have looked. But if they were healthy, my analysis would be like, look, we've seen this team play much better. We've seen this defense play much better. The schedule's going to get easier. The Texans are struggling offensively. This defense is not as bad as it's looked. But none of the starters are even out there and healthy, so it's really tough to say, well, the Ravens' defense is going to be better now.
That's literally their top 3 cornerbacks, and they did not participate. None of those guys were even limited in practice. All 3 of their top corners didn't even practice yesterday. Kyle Hamilton, they're all-pro safety. He was at least limited, so he did practice. We already talked about Madubuike's done. That's their best interior pass rusher. Travis Jones, the nose tackle, was limited. So sometimes it's not so much the volume of injuries. It's at times who's injured, right? But at other times it's like how concentrated are those injuries on specific units?
For sure.
Well, when your top 3 corners are out or done or shut down or like some degree of injury for literally the top 3 guys in your depth chart, you're in real trouble immediately, even if nobody else was injured. But also, you take away Roquan Smith and your best pass rusher. Well, that's the entire spine of the defense when you add it to Kyle Hamilton. Like, they're just so banged up on defense. And even when people were healthy, the defense looked pretty bad. I can't imagine a world where this Baltimore defense this week looks any better than it has looked previously. The only thing in their favor is they're going up against this Houston offensive line, which is still a train wreck.
Yeah.
Like, that's the pillow fight, right? If they can't get pressure against this offensive line, you're like, this team is never getting pressure.
Yeah, and whether that's one-on-ones or whether that's, through blitzing, we saw the.
But equally for Houston, it's a great get-right spot for them because, this is the one game this year where your offensive line might not be so bad that the rest of the offense can't function.
Here's the wild card in this one, though. The wild card in this game is Cooper Rush under center and maybe literally under center. Do the Ravens play more under center and give the ball to Derrick Henry, our friend Dan O, who's not really our friend, but we mention him a lot on the show. I'm not saying he's not our friend. It's just I can't claim him as a friend, Mina's our friend, and he's friends with her, so it's close. Dan O had a good stat that he got.
What do you have?
From our friend Hembo. He's our friend. The Ravens have the lowest percentage of first and second down handoffs, just straight up runs to the running back.
For a team that you would imagine should be at the sharp end of that.
Yes.
Yeah.
And they have Derrick Henry. So the wild card in this whole game is not that Cooper Rush is better, obviously, than Lamar Jackson at all, but it could just be a completely different offense.
You say obviously, and you've got people like Skip Bayless out here.
Yeah. I mean, Cooper Rush is better than, if he wins this game, Cooper's better than 2-time MVP Lamar Jackson. He's better than Dak Prescott.
Well, he's going to.
Isn't he like 7-4 as a starter in his career or something ridiculous?
We talked about how Colin Cowherd actually does, keep receipts on himself and revisit old takes and stuff. Like Skip Bayless at some point has got to reconcile mentally the idea that he trusts Cooper Rush more than Dak Prescott, who he believes to be an MVP this year.
Which,
that's if that ever
transitive property, that one.
Like if those two wires ever connect in his brain, he's just going to fritz out.
Let's see, he's 9-5 in his career. Is he up to Lamar's winning percentage?
I will say
64% winning percentage. Lamar's probably up 68. I mean, it's like a toss-up here.
Yeah. I mean, we said this before. I think one of the solutions to Baltimore's offense generally is to get lean on Derrick Henry more. Like, this is a team that should be running the ball exhaustively because Derrick Henry needs that kind of workload, because with Lamar Jackson and Derrick Henry, it works in concert anyway, and Lamar's not seeing the field particularly well at the moment. So even with Jackson in the lineup, you would say that would be part of the solution to making this offense better. With Cooper Rush there, it's absolutely the solution, because you don't trust Cooper Rush as much as Lamar Jackson to be the passing quarterback. So why would you not be leaning on Derrick Henry? Plus, he's not Lamar Jackson, but he is athletic enough that you can at least keep this, like, the threat of a zone read. Like, I don't want Cooper Rush carrying the ball all that much, but I'm fine still showing that look. And if a defense is not honoring it whatsoever,
you're saying Cooper can at least run the keeper mechanics?
Yes, and like the old school Russell Wilson, Marshawn Lynch thing, right? Like, basically all of these are handoffs to Marshawn Lynch. But if a defense is literally going to say, I am not honoring the keeper, well, then take it. Keep it.
Oh, man. I don't know. I will say, I mean, Cooper Rush has played okay football at points in his career. He's had a couple good games.
It's the most lukewarm endorsement of anybody ever.
Can he get getting the ball to Rashad Bateman? It could just look completely different, right? This Ravens offense has been so boomer bust. They haven't run the ball with the running back, as we just mentioned. Can you get the ball to Rashad Bateman? DeAndre Hopkins, who's making some big plays here still this year, and Zay Flowers, Isaiah Likely, Mark Andrews. Like, it is a good group of playmakers for just a straight drop-back pass game, right? A drop-back pass game, play-action game. I think they have the ingredients to have a good offense, even though it will look nothing like Lamar.
Right.
It is also, by the way, an interesting dynamic. We talk a lot about, like, how do you want the backup quarterback to compare to your starting quarterback? The fact that a lot of times, if you have a mobile starter, you want to have a mobile backup, so you have the same offense. This is the opposite, right? As you're saying, maybe we can have some keeper mechanics from Cooper Rush, but this is a completely different offense with Cooper Rush versus Lamar Jackson. Just another interesting dynamic where, like, when they had Tyler Huntley, you're at least pulling from the same parts of the playbook for the most part, even though it's not all like for like. You're not necessarily doing that with Rush.
Yeah, the good thing, like, Cooper Rush is not, I don't think, a particularly good quarterback, period. So it's obviously a lot worse with him in the lineup than it is with Lamar Jackson. The good thing, though, is, number one, they might be more inclined to lean on Derrick Henry, which I think should have been part of the solution anyway. Number two, part of the issue with Lamar Jackson at the moment is I don't think he's seeing the field well. Like, this is not the MVP version of Lamar Jackson where he's dialed in and he is a great passing quarterback. Right now, he is in a funk for whatever reason, and the last two games have featured a completely different way of him failing as a passing quarterback. The first time, he didn't really have anywhere to go with the ball and got into real trouble against the Lions. The second time, they actually gave him options and he wasn't seeing them. So for that reason alone, like, if Cooper Rush is just seeing it correctly, you might have more in the passing game simply because he's not doing what Lamar Jackson is doing. And then you might also, by sitting Lamar for a week to get the hamstring healthy, you might have him reset himself and come back and, got himself out of this funk without having to do anything weird in the game.
He's got to reset something.
Yeah.
It'll be a challenge against this Texans defensive front. Number 3 in pressure rate, of course. Will Anderson, Danielle Hunter, both having outstanding seasons.
Number 3 in pressure rate, number 3 in passer rating allowed as a team defense as well. So this is, generally speaking, just one of the best defenses in the NFL. Talking
a lot about Baltimore just because it's a key story, the fact that they're 1-3. But it's a big story that the Texans are 1-3, coming off their first win. And I was ready to put them in the same conversation as the Ravens. Maybe I nailed it. Same conversation as the Ravens. That's what I was saying before the season. Just didn't think it was at the bottom of the AFC.
Right, just two terrible teams.
Same conversation as the Ravens, the Chiefs, and the Bills. I'm not saying it's over for Houston. I think they have a good chance to win this game. They are favored. The offense, much like Philly and some other teams, I think they do have more potential. I would lean into that potential with the rookies, like what you're seeing from Woody Marks, catching the ball out of the backfield, pass blocking, running the ball. So I think they have some answers offensively against a Baltimore defense that's at the bottom of every metric: pass rush, coverage, points per game, all of it. So I expect the Texans to have a better offensive performance than they've had.
Yeah, they should have. Again, it's like, Baltimore's defense right now is a get-right spot for everybody. The Houston offense has a very clear Achilles heel with that offensive line. If the Baltimore defense is bad enough that line doesn't really matter, then you would expect I still think C.J. Stroud is very good when you give him a good platform to work from. He just hasn't had that for like 2 years at this stage. So if this is one game where he does have that platform, the Texans have weaponry. Like, there's an offense that should and could function. And their defense, you would imagine, will do a really good job. So, yeah, like I feel like this could be a bounce-back spot for Houston.
Birdie in the chat says Cynthia Freeland had Zach Martin on her show, NFL IQ, Cynthia Freeland and Logan Ryan, all part of the 33rd Team Network here, so go check that out. He said Cooper Rush will be fine. Ravens won't have to shrink the playbook. I think that's I agree. They don't have to shrink the playbook as far as pass concepts go, but clearly you're not going to be running QB power and counter with Cooper Rush. So it won't be a shrunken playbook as far as, oh no, he can't run the same plays Lamar can from a pass game perspective, but you certainly can't run the same type of run game and misdirection type of game that you're going to have with Lamar.
They're also potentially down Ronnie Stanley. They're already not great at the other spot going up against, two elite pass rushers. That's problematic. I mean, that's my bigger concern more than Cooper Rush has to deal with a rudimentary playbook.
And then high level, both teams 1-3. I mean, if you're in a 1-4 hole, the Rams came out of that last year. They were 1-4, I believe. I mean, the loser of this game, you're just digging a deeper and deeper hole. This is a massive game for two teams that I think can still get into the playoffs and do some damage because they're talented enough.
Yeah.
But it's a pivotal game here in Week 5.
Yeah, it is. I mean, particularly like Baltimore, we've been talking about, look, at some point they'll come out of this hole. It's not too bad. But all of a sudden, like, they're so banged up that you're like, the better things are not on the horizon, right? They're so injured that you're not seeing that group necessarily get massively better. And then on offense, because even if you were like, okay, the defense might just stink, right? But Dallas's defense stinks and the offense is playing amazingly. Last year, the Bengals showed that you can have a terrible defense and still make the playoffs, even if they didn't. Like, they could have. It would have just taken one good offensive performance against the Patriots in Week 1 for them to make it. So they showed that you can do that if the offense plays so well. But the offense isn't playing well right now. That's their problem. And now you're down Lamar Jackson. You're having to start Cooper Rush. Plus, next week they play the Rams, right? So it's not like the schedule is going to ease up for them either. If they don't win this game, I would say like they're almost in must-win territory already.
Tank, draft Lenora Sellers. Is that what you're saying?
It's not, no.
Oh, okay. Anyway, Houston by 1.5 here, over under just 40.5. Sunday, 1 o'clock. Where are you going to go?
I'm going to go with the Texans. I feel like the Ravens are almost in a death spiral at this point, given those injuries.
Also taking the Texans. Harry's going to take Baltimore. I'm not sure if he knows about Lamar Jackson's injury, but I'll give him the opportunity.
You're sitting here like exploiting the fact that the 10-year-old is not like dialed in on injury reports, and he's still kicking your ass in picks.
I'm not exploiting anything.
That sounds a lot like you're exploiting.
Kid's got to do his own research.
That's exploiting it.
Steals my iPad all the time to dig into the news. All right, Las Vegas Raiders at the Indianapolis Colts. Colts favored by 6.5 here. They're 3-1. Raiders 1-3. Over under 47.5 in the Dome in Indy.
In the Dome.
You got Geno Smith here throwing a plethora of interceptions.
Plethora.
I don't know what to do with that other than I think he's making bad decisions, but every time he does, it's getting caught. This has always been our analysis through the years. I did see something recently, like Baker Mayfield, not to pick on him again, but he has 9, like Baker has 9 turnover-worthy plays and 1 interception.
Yeah.
And Geno Smith has 8 turnover-worthy plays and 7 interceptions. So it's one of those every time. So what do you do with that? Is Geno Smith playing well? Absolutely not. But is every time he's making a bad decision, the defense is catching it.
Yeah.
And oftentimes it's like, well, maybe it's just easier for those plays. It's not necessarily. Kevin Byard made a couple. I mean, Tyreek Stevenson's making a diving interception. Kevin Byard made 2 good plays on the same exact pass concept last week. So
it's wild, though, how much the perception swings based off the turnovers that may or may not be lucky, right? Like in terms of that.
And they're bad. I mean, it's just how we've viewed the game for years. Your brain forgets about it. Just you got away with that one too bad. And versus if it's caught, it's like, Geno's doing it again, just putting his team in terrible spot.
Yeah.
And it's like, well, they're both the same thing.
Right. Like Baker Mayfield is playing dramatically better than Geno Smith. If you look at PFF grade or whatever, I think Baker Mayfield is top 10 or just on the outside of the top 10, whereas Geno's somewhere towards the bottom.
Yeah, thank you for prefacing that. I believe Baker Mayfield is playing way better than Geno Smith.
But a lot
the
of the narrative
is interesting.
But a lot of the narrative, like people are talking about benching Geno Smith because of turnovers, right? And it's like, well, That's not the reason. If you want to bench him, that's not the reason. It's not because of turnovers necessarily, because you've got like the turnover thing. Like you said, turnover-worthy plays, Baker Mayfield actually has more of them. So the reason to bench him is not because he's turned the ball over a lot. It's because he's not playing well. Like between the turnovers, the performance isn't good.
Yeah, they looked better week one. I mean, there was some level of aggressiveness to the pass game in week one that I really liked, and it's just gotten worse and worse over these last few weeks. On the bright side, they did get Ashton Genty going last week against one of the worst run defenses in the Bears. So that's
probably not a coincidence.
Yeah, so like one of the same questions we would have is was that a turning point for Genty, or was it just you ran up against a Bears defense that was allowing the most yards before contact of any team, which you would have heard right here from our packet last week going into the game. I was reading that stat out last week at this time.
Yeah.
This is the week for Genty. I don't have the Colts ranking here in yards before contact this week, but it's better than the Bears. So can the Raiders keep the run game going?
Yeah, big question. And particularly because it's not like the offensive line, the blocking was amazing for him last week. In fact, it still featured one of those plays where he got buried in the backfield like immediately because they goofed and didn't block somebody, and he fumbled on that play. So, generally it's been pretty bad, but last week showed that he doesn't even need good blocking. He just needs not the worst blocking in the league by a mile in order to function. I think that's huge. Like, he's extremely difficult to bring down. He generally makes the first guy miss almost regardless of situation. So if you can just give him anything, he's got a shot.
Other side of the ball, Colts offense still looking really good. Raiders defense, interesting. They've been pretty tough against the run, or at least creating negative plays in the run game, getting into the backfield, going up against Jonathan Taylor, who looks outstanding. Knock off a whole bunch of yards that he picked up that got negated because of the A.D. Mitchell hold the other day. I wonder if the Colts are just like the Chiefs from a couple years ago. They're only going to lose if A.D. Mitchell does stuff. It's kind of like the Kadarius Toney thing,
right?
A couple of years ago, Colts might be that good. But I think this Colts offense has a chance to have good success, at least throwing the ball against the Raiders. And the other part, this might matter more when the Chiefs play the Raiders in a few weeks. The Raiders are settling into that one of those like 50-60% cover three, old school single high type of teams.
Yeah.
Where there's certain teams where it's like, if I know what you're in, we're gonna win. If I know what you're in, we're gonna exploit that. I'll mention this when the Chiefs play in a few weeks because that's usually been their bread and butter, and I feel like Shane Steichen and the Colts can take advantage of that too with the way they spread the ball around.
I mean, it's like the exact opposite of the current sort of trends league-wide. Like, that is a defensive scheme. It's not like it's died because people still run that coverage, but nobody's out here running it, a lot. Nobody's out here running it the way teams used to run those Seattle Legion of Boom type systems, like, because that teams found the answer to that. Same reason nobody's running, old school Tampa 2 every play the way they used to, right? There was a period of time where that was the meta defense, and then suddenly it's like, actually, offenses have now figured out how to attack that, and everyone abandoned it. It's like, you can't run this as your exclusive base defense because they know how to attack it. Same thing happened with that cover 3 scheme. It was the meta for a while, largely because that one defense was so good with it. Everyone tried to copy it. Everyone was running it for a while. And then, Shanahan came along. Everyone figured out where the gaps were in that defense, and teams kind of abandoned it. And now you're in this world where most teams play most coverages, and mix and match. Nobody's running like one thing all the time because that's the problem. Like, offenses are now good enough where they know where the weaknesses are in pretty much every coverage scheme. So all you can do is run all of them and try and confuse them as much as possible.
The other key note in this game here, Raiders offensive line has struggled, I would say, more in the run game than in pass protection, but, either way, they haven't been great. And now they're down Colton Miller, their best lineman. Just re-signed him before the offseason. He's settled in over these last few years as one of the better, just dependable pass-blocking left tackles in the league. So Colton Miller got hurt late in the game last week. 6'9" Stone Forsythe probably filling in there. It's tough when you're 6'9" blocking people, just saying.
Yeah.
Pad level-wise. And then you've got the Colts, who are pretty good up front, and got to give a shout-out to Laiatu Latu. Just a good example of first few weeks, he was winning, wasn't really getting to the quarterback, and he's starting to get to the quarterback now and finish plays. Got a sack last week, a couple knockdowns. he looks far better than he did as a rookie. I think he started to really take that next step and become what we thought he would be as the first defensive player off the board in last year's draft.
Good, because I didn't really understand why he wasn't good up until this point.
He just didn't look, I didn't think he looked dynamic as a rookie. And I think there's like a confidence as he's rushing the quarterback right now that I think is showing up where the athleticism and the technician in him are starting to come out. And I think he's ready to soar, man. I think he's got like a 10 sack. He's gonna start getting some sacks in bunches, I think.
He didn't even look technically particularly proficient, which was the thing that he was supposed to be amazing at. And obviously, I think those things are connected with the other stuff, like confidence. Once you're able to sort of physically hang and the game is slowed down for you, your technique comes back.
I got the inside info I got from one of his teammates last year is maybe he's so smart, so technically sound. He's got too many moves, right? He's almost overthinking it, and you could almost sense that last year where it wasn't fast. I think it's all coming together though for Latu. So I'm predicting. Remember last year, Nick Bonito, you had this cutoff. It was like after week 6, after week 7, Nick Bonito's a top 5, whatever. I think Latu's ready.
And it took him a while.
Ready to soar.
Like Nick Bonito as a relatively undersized edge rusher and stuff. Like it took him a couple of years before he became good.
So I'm of two schools of mind here. I think Geno Smith has played. I think he's had. It's not bad interception luck. It's just all the bad mistakes have absolutely been caught. It's very difficult for that to be sustainable. But that's just one piece of the Raiders. I've been disappointed in the overall effort. I thought they'd be feistier and more competitive.
I will say the weaponry on offense has not lived up to the hype for multiple reasons. I mean, Dante Thornton, who we talked about, like sometimes you get these guys where it's like, oh, they're amazing in training. Like this is kind of like Romeo Doubs year 1, where the dude was uncoverable in training camp and preseason. It's like, oh, Dobbs is going to be this find. And then he got to the regular season. It was like, he was all right, but it wasn't the same.
Right.
Dante Thornton, it's like from day one, it's like, this guy's running with the first team offense. And look at this height, weight, size, blah, blah, blah. And then all the way through preseason, the focus was almost more on like, hey, he's still running with the first team. Like, this is going to be a thing.
Hasn't been there this year.
And then he gets to the regular season. It's still a thing in that he's still out there playing a lot, but he hasn't made an impact whatsoever yet. And then obviously Brock Bowers, who's basically their best offensive playmaker, has been dealing with this knee injury. He's still working. He's still playing with a giant brace on his knee. Like he's just not 100%. So Michael Mayer's been out. So you're missing a lot of the players that we would have thought were going to be big parts of this offense. And yeah, Trey Tucker's been making plays, but it's like it feels like that's more because we're missing some things rather than because Trey Tucker has become an uncoverable monster.
So I'm torn on this one. It's 6.5. Indy's favored. Where are you going to go with this one?
I'm going to go with the Colts. I think they are too good. The Raiders can't really stop the run. The Colts have too much. They're just better.
I was going to go with the Raiders, but talking through it, the offensive line injury to Colton Miller, I think that's going to open up a lot. It's going to be a challenge for the Raiders. I'll take the Colts to cover, as will Harry. New York Giants at the New Orleans Saints. Sunday at 1. Saints are now favored by 1.5.
Favored New Orleans Saints.
The 0-4 Saints and the 1-3 Giants here. Saints favored by 1.5. I believe it started with the Giants as favored.
How can the line be moving away from Jackson Dart?
They got to the film. Vegas, the coach's film got to Vegas. No, just joking with Dart. I'm at the point where the Giants is the most exciting Giants team in a while. But I think it's because of the pass rush. I think the way Abdul Carter has come on the last couple weeks, this is the expectation for the defensive line, and I think we're starting to see it. Where any given week, those defensive linemen can take over the game, and it might be in the form of Dexter Lawrence with a pick, right? In the same way that he did. They're just so talented.
Elite coverage.
Dexter Lawrence, Kayvon Thibodeau, Brian Burns, Abdul Carter, those dudes can take over a game. I think that's going to make Giants analysis or predictions tricky because there's other parts of the roster that I don't think are as great. And Dart's passing has looked inconsistent last week, and I'm not sure how long it's going to take for him, to build that up. But the pass rush of the Giants, that front four, can take over at any time.
No, it can. And the Saints' offensive line, I don't think is great. Spencer Rattler has been playing pretty well this season so far, particularly relative to expectations, which were not high. But the Giants, we've seen already, they have the type of pass rush that can cause real problems for even good high-level quarterbacks. So it's a very tough ask for Rattler.
We always talk about this, like line moves within, from +3 to -3. It's not a huge deal necessarily. But this is one of those games I felt like the Giants, with their momentum, were going to be favored. I'm like, man, the Saints are, outside of the one Seattle game, they've been playing tough. They've been playing close with the other teams. They hung tough against Buffalo, and I think there's something to it. But of course, the Giants just beat up the Chargers. From a pass rush perspective, and then Dart's running ability is a massive factor in these.
Huge, particularly But I think you can run on the Saints defense, but the way the Giants are calling plays with Jackson Dart at quarterback, they want to make this into a run game first type of offense. Cam Scatterboo, Jackson Dart, and they're down Malik Neighbors as well, so that's going to incentivize them even more to run the ball. They are going to try and run the ball as much as humanly possible against the Saints.
I think it's a fun matchup. Let's watch Dart in part two. If you didn't see our review episode, we did make some comparisons to other previous quarterbacks. I thought Dart was very inconsistent passing, footwork-wise, accuracy-wise. He took 5 sacks.
Yeah. And look, it's just
all of which
that was
were
just his
avoidable.
debut.
It was his debut.
So who knows what he'll look like long term. I'm not saying he will be that player long term, but that debut was very much like that.
Yes. And so, but from a run game perspective, designed runs, scrambles, I thought Dart made some plays that kept him in it. Then you have the Malik Neighbors factor, not having him, and just you lose an elite receiver who I didn't really love the way they were using him as like an exclusive deep threat this year, but I was assuming the more Jackson Dart played, you'd get the more well-rounded version of Malik Neighbors. We don't get to see that necessarily. So yeah, it's going to be a challenge for the Giants to find consistent playmakers beyond Neighbors.
Yeah, that's why I think they're going to be running the ball like an absolute ton, as much as they can. It will be interesting to see if what Dart did last week still holds up. If a team is, once they're aware of that being the game plan, like, oh, they're going to try and run this guy. Like what the touchdowns where it's like QB draw in the red zone. Well, that's now a fairly obvious tactic for this team. So we're not going to open up as much when you go to empty, and just show us that kind of formation. So, it may take a couple of weeks. Maybe it'll be 1 week immediately, and the Saints will do it. But I think you're going to see a very different type of defense that Jackson Dart's going to be playing, and they need to show they've got more to the offense than what they called last week.
And you mentioned the point, Rattler, he's playing all right.
The one big thing for him is the turnover rate or turnover-worthy play rate. Like that. So, and particularly for this game, like Rattler's playing pretty well generally, but those turnovers are what could swing this game away from you.
And him throwing, Olave, Brandon Cooks, Rashid Shaheed, like there is some potential there. Jawan Johnson, the 1-2 punch of Alvin Kamara and Kendry Miller in the backfield. So there's some potential there for this offense. Love this Saints offensive line, the 2 young tackles getting challenged against the Giants defensive line. It'll be a fun matchup in this one. All right, man. Saints favored by 1.5. That was my initial instinct was the Saints. I'm just an overall Dart Giants hater, I guess.
Yeah, I can't believe I'm doing it, but the Saints are favored, and I'm picking them to cover the line.
Because I'm taking the Saints because I think they've been feistier than expected, and now they're at home.
Yeah,
but I thought they were going to be. I was ready to pick them as home underdogs. It's the same idea though.
I don't like it though because I do think the Giants' defensive line will really get after Rattler, and he's already kind of prone to throwing the ball to the defense. That could be a real problem.
Harry's a Dart believer though. He's taking the Giants as underdogs in the Dome. All right, quick break to talk about our friends over at Root Insurance. Root Insurance believes that good drivers deserve better rates, so they've created a new kind of car insurance that rewards good drivers in an easy-to-use app. Traditional car insurance companies focus on demographics like age, zip code, occupation, and credit score to price your coverage. When Root offers a rate, your behavior behind the wheel gets more weight than any other single factor. They don't use occupation or education level to negatively affect your rate. So while you drive, Root gathers and analyzes data from your smartphone sensors, and after a few weeks, you'll get a car insurance quote based primarily on your driving. Save up to 44% off your initial Root quote after you take the test drive. You need a tow truck, jump start, or if you lock your keys in the car, Root will cover the help you need to get back on the road when you opt into roadside assistance. And the Root app makes it easy to edit your coverage, update your policy, or file a claim in just 3 minutes. You can get started today at Root.com. 5 more games. Can we do this in an hour?
No.
I think we can. Get a heart out, get some TV to do.
Wow.
or radio or podcast. I don't know. Doing something on camera. Dallas Cowboys at the New York Jets. I got to do this stupid all season here. The 1-2-1 Dallas Cowboys.
Yeah.
I'm going to get so mad every time I say their record in the Packers.
All right.
With the ties. Against the winless Jets.
Yes, the winless Jets.
Right? They're still 0-4?
I believe so.
Yeah. Cowboys at the Jets. Cowboys favored by 2.5 here.
You mentioned Dano, non-indeterminate relation to the show. Not friend, not enemy, just a guy we talk about sometimes.
Guy on ESPN.
Yeah. He had another stat, which apparently 2011 is the only time that the worst defense in the NFL went to the playoffs.
Patriots.
Sure. I don't know. He doesn't specify. But the point is, Dallas right now arguably has the worst defense in the NFL, and yet Dak Prescott is playing spectacularly on offense. Could Dallas make the playoffs?
Could have been the Patriots if you're doing yardage. I don't know what your
I don't know what his metric is. I don't care. The point is, that's the category Dallas is currently sitting in.
Dallas. So the Eagles are at this point of wild stats that don't match up with 4-0. Dallas is in just wild stat territory. Like everything's crazy. They have the lowest pass. Like if I read out these stats, here's how I'll position this. If I read these stats to you, you would say this team is not only 0-4, but they're getting outscored by 20 points per game.
Yeah.
So they have the lowest PFF pass blocking grade as a team, Dallas Cowboys.
Yeah.
They're allowing 0.41 EPA per play in the pass game. So for perspective, the league leaders are often in the 0.3 type range. 0.4, I don't know where 07 Brady was or like 2013 Peyton, but it's probably in that range. Like they're allowing MVP caliber play.
Yes.
For every quarterback that they're facing.
I mean, you can simplify it to some of the more box score numbers where they're allowing an opposing passer rating of 123. They've given up 10
that would be the worst of all time, the best of all time for any quarterback in the season.
Given up 10 they've given up 10 passing touchdowns, which isn't the most on its own. They're tied with the Bears, right, who have also given up 10 passing touchdowns. The difference is Chicago has 7 interceptions to offset some of those touchdowns. Dallas has 1 interception. So their touchdown-interception ratio is 10-1 right now on defense, despite having a secondary of ball hawks, right?
Yes.
Like, this is catastrophic.
And then, so why are the Cowboys not 0-4? And instead, they're 1-2-1.
Yeah.
It is Dak Prescott.
Yes. A couple more numbers for the defense.
I got fun numbers too, but go ahead. Yeah.
They've given up a league-leading 1,189 passing yards. Baltimore.
Can we get some sad music overlay here?
Baltimore is second with 1,062. But when you factor in how many pass attempts they face, that means Dallas is giving up 9.2 yards per attempt to Baltimore's 6.8. So even against other terrible defenses, they are in a special world of awful. Their completion rate they've given up is 73.3%, and they've only got 5 sacks. This is an abysmal defense.
Off the top of my head, if I can remember everything you said, a 73% completion rate.
Yep.
Like if a quarterback did all of these things.
I mean, that's like Drew Brees.
That would be a record.
Yeah.
The passer rating of 123, I think, would be a record.
Yeah.
9.1 yards per attempt would be pretty close.
I mean, that's
for
so
the modern era.
You've got Drew Brees at his peak in terms of completion rate. The passer rating is like an all-time record, and yards per attempt is like Brock Purdy in the Shanahan offense when everything's firing, and it's like this is a cheat code. So those 3 things are all like the best of all time.
And 0.41 EPA per play is not only MVP caliber, but like best seasons of all time for sure. So that's a Dallas defense.
Particularly in the pass game. The run game, the good news is, to Jerry's credit, that Kenny Clark has made this run defense rank average. So on the one hand, the trade you made has successfully taken the run defense from one of the worst in the league to just a rank average standard run defense. It has, however, come at the cost of making the pass defense the worst thing the NFL has ever seen.
So
I would argue, in net terms, that's a negative.
Now, on the other hand, when you read off all these historic stats, you realize that that's impossible to keep this up. Because we did the same thing. If you
cannot possibly be this bad.
Somebody dig up, when we were at PFF 2 years ago at this time, the Broncos defense.
Right, they gave up 70.
Week 7, they gave up 7 in week 3, 70 in week 3, and by week 6, it was like, this is the worst defense of all time, and we probably read off similar stats.
Yes.
And by week 8, it was like, man, they're giving the Chiefs some problems. Their pass rush is coming good. Right? Things change in the season. Something has to change in Dallas defensively, but also natural progression, regression, positive regression should happen here for Dallas. But how the heck are they even competitive right now? Well, Dak, I mentioned the pass blocking has been awful. I mean, left tackle Tyler Guyton, the rookie Tyler Booker before he was getting hurt was getting beat up. I mean, the pass protection's been terrible.
Yeah.
Dak has almost 100 more yards under pressure than any other quarterback, and he's completing 70% of his passes.
Yeah.
70 when under pressure. By the way, that's also not sustainable.
Correct.
Right? So the tricky part about being an analyst here, Sam, is like, I want to give Dak all this credit. He's playing out of his mind. Week 1 against Philly, going toe-to-toe with the benched Russell Wilson, who's getting all these free yards against this Dallas defense, and Dak continuing to lead the Cowboys back in week 2. Last week against the Packers, the fact that they were even in that game against a great Packers defense, which didn't play great, but they had been playing really well. I want to give Dak almost extra credit for this because 2 years ago we talked about, man, Dak's got these MVP caliber numbers, but he's really not doing it against good teams. He's beating up on the bad teams. He's done this against Philly's defense, against the Packers defense, and for whatever it's worth, the Packers defense was one of the best in the league. They didn't play like that at all Sunday night, but Dak was a factor in that, and against the Giants pass rush that was still getting after him in week 2. Who'd they play week 3? I forget off the top of my head. So it's been very impressive what Dak Prescott's done. So, two things are true about Dallas. It's going to be tough for Dak to keep this up if they don't protect him at all. It was against Chicago in week 3.
Yeah.
It's going to be tough for them to keep it up. It's also, defensively, they should be a little bit better. And Eberflus and company, they have to figure out how to play to that talent because it's not completely devoid of talent on that side of the ball, especially in the secondary, as you said.
You're right. There's too much talent for them to be literally the worst defense in NFL history in the pass game. That, I think, definitely will come back towards the mean at some point. I would definitely, though, say you're right that the concern is that the regression on offense hits just as hard, if not harder, because Dak Prescott's playing out of his mind under pressure right now, and pressure, that's unsustainable for any quarterback in the NFL. I would also say Dak would be a quarterback generally that is more susceptible to pressure than I would have more confidence in a guy like Josh Allen sustaining a freaky performance level under pressure than Dak Prescott. For his career, when you pressure Dak Prescott, his yards per attempt drops 0.6. His touchdown to interception ratio goes from 3.1 to 1 to 1.6 to 1. His completion rate goes from 73% to 56%. He's a quarterback who generally does not go particularly well under pressure, and he's right now playing out of his mind under pressure.
And then on the other side, I don't have the tweet in front of me, but it was pretty hilarious when I read it. And I couldn't tell what team it was, and as I read it, I was like, oh, okay, that makes sense. Jets are struggling. They're not a great team, but we were describing them as, it could be this ground and pound, tighten up the game type of team, but now they're, 10 procedural penalties, and they're just not playing good football. The tweet was something about, man, all I wanted was a feisty ground and pound, keep it close team, and I'm getting tankathon tweets before October. I just started laughing. And then I looked up the profile, and it was the Jets.
Yeah.
So I apologize to whoever that was who probably doesn't listen to the show and doesn't get credit for it. I was just dying laughing because that's how I described the Jets. I'm like, oh, this team could sneak 5, 6, 7 wins and be feisty, and Aaron Glenn brings this attitude or whatever. And I
remember week 1 where they looked so good on offense. They put up, then they should have won that game. And you're like, man, this is going to be the thing. The Jets are actually going to be competitive, and this is going to be kind of fun to watch. And then it's just been sad since then.
So there's some good stuff with the Jets. The run game has had spurts where it's looked really good.
But Braylon Allen is now on IR,
yeah,
missing at least 4 weeks, probably more, because he might have surgery off that knee, which is an unfortunate thing. Against Miami, they started so well. They looked like they were just going to run the ball 58 straight times and still beat the Dolphins. And then right at the end, before punching it in for a touchdown, instead it's a fumble. Braylon Allen gets injured. Was it the next kickoff he gets injured? Very close to that. And now he's done for a bit. It's
The other thing to keep an eye on where I think the Jets can be feisty this week, week one, Jalen Hurts. The difference in the game in week one was Jalen Hurts scrambling. Caleb Williams had success scrambling against them. Now you have Justin Fields coming off. He had the 43-yard scramble. The only reason why the Jets were in the game is because he created a 43-yarder on 4th and 1.
Yeah.
As inconsistent as Fields is, throwing the ball and just week-to-week consistency from Fields, any given week he could also just run for 100 yards between the design run game and scrambling. And the Cowboys have not been the best, not only just rushing the passer, but as far as gap discipline goes when rushing, pass rush lanes, I think that's a place where the Jets might be able to exploit the defense as well, in addition to every other stat that you said was historic.
Yeah, I mean, Fields he showed in that game against Miami, like even when things aren't going well, he's still a very difficult quarterback to beat because he's athletically freaky. And every now and again, you can have it was a blown play. It was a busted play. It was a bad play call. It was about to get buried. And Fields just went, okay, instead of this negative play, I'm going to turn it into a touchdown. There are not many quarterbacks in the league that can do that. I mean, he did this, for the Steelers, I think, against Myles Garrett. It's like there are not many guys that can turn Myles Garrett is about to murder the quarterback into actually touchdown, and he can do that in any given play. Now, he's probably only going to do it once in a game, once or twice, and that's the problem is you can't build an offense around that. You need to actually be efficient enough in between those plays for it to be crazy, but that's a play that can change the outcome of a game if everything else is close enough.
All right, man, we're going to make picks on this one. A lot of fun, stats on either side of the ball here. Dallas favored by 2.5 on the road.
Yeah. I'm still going with Dallas to win and cover.
Yeah, I'll take Dallas. I'll ride the hot hand of Dak Prescott right now. And Harry will also take the Cowboys. Miami Dolphins at the Carolina Panthers. A couple 1-3 teams here. Dolphins coming off their first win Monday Night Football against the Jets at the Panthers, and the Dolphins are favored by 1.5 with an over-under of 44.5 per FanDuel.
Yeah.
Big story, of course. We broke it down yesterday. Tyreek Hill, his injury, what it might mean. Talked a little bit, through about Tyreek's career and what he's done from a career perspective. If this ends up becoming something that's, I don't know if it's career-ending necessarily, but affects his skill set. So we broke that down on yesterday's show, if you're interested. But that's one big question is, like, what does this Miami offense look like without that deep threat and intermediate threat that Tyreek Hill has been?
Yeah, like they still have major problems even with him in the lineup. The offensive line is rough. They don't necessarily have a ton of weaponry everywhere else. Now you're back to, are we reliant on this offense running through Jalen Waddle the way it did before Tyreek Hill arrived? The Darren Waller arrival was, I think, an important development for them. Like, he showed that he can still cook in the NFL at the NFL level. And remember, like, Darren Waller's problem really became injuries. I mean, he just got so banged up that he kind of his career washed out, and he went off rapping, and now he's back. But like, I don't know how long that'll last if he's
just went off rapping.
If he's going to be healthy for any period of time. But if he is, like, Darren Waller healthy still looks like a legitimate threat at the tight end position, which is a spot Miami have not been good at, even when this offense was in good shape with Mike McDaniel. So I think that could be an important development. I just don't know.
They had their Jonnu Smith spurt.
Yeah, but even, like, Jonnu Smith's a guy that has random spurts of production, but I wouldn't say is a particularly good NFL tight end. Certainly not, relative to consistent performers year on year. I just wonder if this offense has too many flaws for it to still be good.
The other piece, right, when you can throw with anticipation, when Tua can throw with anticipation, it negates the offensive line issues, which still persist outside of Patrick Paul, who's been outstanding in pass protection at left tackle. When Tua can throw early and on time, and you do that when you either have trust, you need to have trust, and you need to have someone who gets open, right? That's Tyreek Hill. You lose that, and we always talked about, well, the Bills play the Dolphins really well, and what do? They do take away the first read. I know you get these generic statements like, oh, Tua's a first read quarterback, and it's like, what does that even mean? I mean, does that mean he's so good pre-snap, knowing exactly where he wants to go, throwing in rhythm? And I mean, most quarterbacks aren't great if you take away their first read, like just how it is. But for Tua in particular, when you do take away his first read, you hold the ball a little bit longer, and it puts more strain on an offensive line that's not pass protecting well. including Jonas Savanier, the second-round pick, he's had a rough go of it to start his career. Rough go of it.
Yeah.
And then you have, the Panthers. I don't think the pass rush has been great, but Derek Brown, Ashawn Robinson, they are difficult to run against. Miami's run game is still soft, man. It's not a power run game. It's like get HN on the edge, get some speed to the edge, and you can have some success. So maybe they could do a little bit of that against Carolina. I will say the one matchup, though, I've been picking on the Panthers linebackers, which, Christian Roseboom and Trevin Wallace, they're not good. And opposing teams have had a ton of success throwing the ball over the middle of the field. That's where Miami wants to throw it. So there is a matchup there that Miami can exploit. I would just feel much better about it with Tyreek Hill running those little deep in cuts that Miami loves. But I think they can have some success throwing. I don't think they'll be able to run the ball, though, against Carolina's front.
Yeah, I mean, generally, the Carolina defense has been pretty terrible outside of that one game where they randomly shut down Atlanta. So you should look at this and say, I mean, if you can't get it done against Carolina's defense, you've got real problems.
And then on the other side, Bryce Young, is he calibrated to have 5.5 yards per attempt? I mean, this is a game where they have to come good. This Dolphins defense has been awful this year. They're not rushing the passer the way they should be. They're questionable on the back end. They're another defense that maybe they could turn it around because all the numbers are so bad, and it was better against the Jets offense. But if you're gonna have some success through the air, this would be the game to do it.
On
the ground.
Remember how we said that Dallas's defense was giving up a pass rating of 123, and that would
Miami
be the worst.
Like $1.17,
and that would be the worst number of all time. Miami is actually at 125.
What?
Yeah, they're worse.
I love early season small sample numbers.
They are giving up a completion rate of 77.6, which is like off the charts insane. And 8.8 yards per attempt. They have given up 7 touchdowns and have no interceptions. So as bad as Dallas's defense is in the pass game, like on pace to be the worst defense in NFL history, Miami's right there with them.
Yeah. Another one, like big game for both teams, right? You're sitting here at 1-3, and it's the difference between feeling like if you're Carolina saying, man, we thought we were going to take a step forward this year. I was sitting here at 1-4, just lost to another team with 1 win.
Yep.
And if you're Miami, it's like, hey, if you're honest, maybe the roster's in a bit of transition, but we don't think we're like one of the 5 worst teams in the league or anything. But you're in that mix. It is as pivotal as 1-3 games can go. You're getting the same thing with Ravens and Texans for different reasons, but it is a big game for both teams here, just to see where the path goes for their season.
Yeah, I mean, Carolina's offense, I keep sort of thinking, once they get Jalen Coker back, you can start to improve and start to form some judgments and start to get evaluations on a bunch of other things. But it's like you can't just sacrifice the season until that happens. You know what I mean? Like they need to actually show some growth and development and improvement absent Jalen Coker so that once he comes back, now you can really start moving in the right direction. But like, they do sort of feel like they're just treading water with, like, can Bryce Young feed Teterow McMillan enough for that to be the entire offense? And the answer to that is probably no, because he's only one target and he's a rookie.
All right, man. Miami's favored by 1.5 here in Carolina. Remember the last time the Panthers were at home, 30-0 win against the Falcons.
One of the most unexplainable games of the season so far.
Yeah.
Yeah, so you do have that. I'm going to go with Miami. I think they have too many playmakers, whereas Carolina has one.
I'm going to take Carolina. I think the big boys in the middle, Derek Brown, Ashawn Robinson, can cause some problems for this Miami offensive line, and you don't have the safety net of Tyreek that you're still trying to figure out. So I'll take the Panthers, and Harry's going to take the Dolphins here. Tennessee Titans at the Arizona Cardinals, Sunday, 4:05. Titans still looking for their first win. Arizona lost their last 2. They're 2-2. But favored by 8.5 here against the Titans. Over-unders 41.5.
8.5 for Arizona. Whew.
Yeah.
Yeah. Arizona remain that team that I just find very difficult to trust in any and all situations.
Yeah. They're coming off a tough one with Seattle. The offense was very bad. We talked a ton about Marvin Harrison Jr. and all the issues there. But I think the Cardinals' defense and, the Titans, no rhythm offensively. There's like 1 or 2 plays per game where you're like, hey, there's Cam Ward. There's his number 1 overall talent. It was a touchdown a few weeks ago against the Rams on a throwback. It was an early scramble drill last week against the Texans. But it's another week, though, as bad as the Titans' offense has been, they faced the Rams' defensive front. They've played the Broncos.
Yeah.
They played the Texans. I mean, they've had a rough stretch of, forget easing Cam Ward into this thing. The offensive line has been stressed. They've been awful. And there's just no rhythm for the Titans, and I think it's going to be tough against this Cardinals defensive line as well.
Yeah, they face some very good defenses, and that's obviously a huge part of some of their struggles. But they've given up 17 sacks as an offense. Only the Vikings have given up more. They've given up, I think, more pressure than the Vikings, and significantly more, I think. And only some of that is the fact that they face very good defenses. Like, I think this is just a really problematic offensive group. The offensive line is not nearly strong enough. The receiving core is not nearly strong enough. Like, too much is being asked of Cam Ward. And some of the way he plays the game is going to skew towards making those things worse as well. Yeah. So they're just undermatched, I think. They don't have enough.
Calvin Ridley, questionable. Starting guard Kevin Zeitler, questionable. We'll see. J.C. Latham officially questionable. Not sure if he's ready to come back or not for the Titans. And then for Arizona, again, I think you're just looking for some rhythm on offense. They're down James Conner, they're starting back, and then late in the game last week against Seattle, Trey Benson, second-year backup, he came out as well. So now you're down to third string running back there, and that could be a factor in the game. If they can't really get the run game going, and it's all on Kyler Murray in the pass game, that does, give the Titans a chance to keep this thing close.
Yeah, and I actually like their third-string running back generally, DeMarcado, but when they've been forced to use him before as the next man up, they don't just give him the workload that the other two guys get.
Right.
So they don't necessarily just say, all right, DeMarcado is going to be an every down bell cow here. Michael Carter did that more the last time this happened, so this will be – because I think DeMarcado is a better running back than Michael Carter, but previously they kind of defaulted to Carter being the bell cow if this situation arises.
So yeah, if the onus is on Arizona's pass game, then all eyes on Kyler and Marvin Harrison Jr. again.
Yeah.
And I'll be keeping on that just from a storyline perspective though. If he went from a slump to okay, at least I can make a contested catch, I can catch the ball, it's a huge factor to get him going, because if Marvin Harrison Jr. is a 1, Michael Wilson, Zay Jones, they're nice compliments, and of course Trey McBride, still one of the best tight ends in the league, then you can start to get some rhythm in this pass game. There's been no rhythm for this offense. Very inconsistent this entire year, and a lot of it starts with Kyler and Marvin Harrison. That's it.
Yeah, the thing to monitor with that is how quickly can a guy get confidence? Like you hear about it in soccer all the time. Like a striker is low in confidence, he just needs a goal. One goal, click, back in confident world, and he's going again, right? Is that the way it works with wide receiver? Like Marvin Harrison just needs one play where he mosses a guy, which he had in the last game, right? Did that do it? Is Marvin Harrison now click? He's back to being college Marvin Harrison where he's just a baller? Or does it take a couple of games where Marvin Harrison looks very good, or even just a game, like one full game as opposed to a half, where Marvin Harrison looks good, makes the plays he's supposed to make, and makes a couple of big plays as well? That will be – because I think, you're dealing with a guy who hasn't necessarily shown much, but what he is showing at the moment, or had been, is like a real loss of confidence. I mean, that the Moss play in the end zone, two things that stood out about that. Number one, it was a great play, the type of which he hasn't made much of this season. But number two was the relief. Like, he didn't react in a way that was like excited, happy. He reacted like, oh, thank God, I finally didn't screw it up.
That's what I mean. Like, we don't touch on the human element of emotions of playing the game. We're very analytical in a lot of our analysis, but just the mental state of Marvin Harrison Jr. is a huge story for Arizona and their prospects.
Yeah, and it's probably a huge part of why they're not on the same page and not able to connect. But if that's where he was before that play, did all of that dissipate with like one dominant play where he just looked, this was what he's used to doing? Did that immediately like knock all the cobwebs of that funk out of it? Or, does that take a while to build back? I don't know what the answer to that is.
Well, let's make some picks here. Arizona by 8.5. Is that too much against this Titans team?
Apparently, according to my pick, it is, though I don't know why. I'm going with Tennessee to cover 8.5.
I'll take Arizona. I'm not trusting the Titans yet, and vibes aren't great right now.
They're not.
Harry's going to take Arizona as well.
Hot seat coach?
Possibly. 2 more games to discuss. Detroit Lions are coming to town, coming to Cincinnati. Favored by 10.5 over the Bengals. It's Sunday at 4:25. Over under 48.5. Lions are 3-1 now, 3-game winning streak. The Bengals are 2-2.
Yes. And it turns out that Jake Browning might not be very good at all.
The whole thing's bad.
Yeah.
The whole thing's bad right now. The one thing I've always given Zach Taylor credit for is bouncing back from disappointments, but you always had Burrow when that was happening, right? It was like, man, you really laid an egg. I'm talking like a 5-year stretch here of the Bengals underachieving in various games, but finding their way and making in-season adjustments. So what's the in-season adjustment here? Because, again, Jake Browning played decent football 2 years ago as a backup with Jamar Chase, with T. Higgins, with a subpar offensive line, played decent football. We're not seeing any of that right now. They haven't run for more than 53 yards in a game, so there's no, forgive me for saying this word, balance on offense. There's no complementary offensive football, we'll say. There's no multiple ways to win on offense because the run game is non-existent. And it's really tough to just, sit back and say, all right, Jake, drop back 40, 45 times and pick apart the defense behind this offensive line.
Yes. And as Marcus Mosher pointed out earlier with a tweet, the Cincinnati Bengals have the fewest big plays, so explosive runs and pass plays, of any team in the NFL since 2022. And okay, Joe Burrow's been missing for a lot of that time. However, you still have Jamar Chase, you still have T. Higgins, you still theoretically, that's part of the reason Browning has had success. When he's had success is that there's still a lot of explosive weaponry within this offense. For them to not literally be the worst offense in football at generating those explosive plays is problematic. So
then you have the Detroit offense starting to find their way. Again, I love the battle that they had against the Browns last week, but that's one of the 2 toughest challenges they're going to have this year. I'd say the way the Browns defense is playing, maybe week 1, the way the Packers defense came out. The Bengals are throwing a ton of 4-man rushes out there. It's a lot of 4-man rush, don't give up big plays type of thing. But I think Detroit can run the ball. I think they can have success, with the on the ground, and then Goff just picking apart a back 7 that's been very inconsistent. Yeah, David Montgomery is averaging almost 4.5 yards after contact this season, and both running backs are doing pretty well in terms of yards before contact this season with that revamped offensive line starting to improve and starting to find its groove. So, yes, this running game that was weirdly shut down early in the season has been pretty dominant outside of that. 33rd team, research team, too. Cincinnati allowing 6.5 yards after the catch per reception. They've done a good job avoiding deep balls, only 2 completions down the field at 20-plus yards, but they're giving up a lot of yak, and we know the way this Detroit offense works. You get Jahmyr Gibbs into space. You get Sam Laporta into space. Amon-Ra St. Brown into space. Jameson Williams is averaging 20. Average depth of target for him is about 20, and he's averaging 12 yards after the catch because they're completing these open deep passes to Williams, and he's running, taking it to the house. So, as always, the Lions offense puts so much stress on the defense, and the way the Bengals are rushing the passer, they're going to be stressed. That's why it's 10.5. Yeah, a lot of players that can hurt you in that Lions offense. It looks as good as it's ever looked. I mean, the Lions look all the way back to being legit contenders. And then the pass rush. I mean, who's going to block Aiden Hutchinson this week? Nobody. Him against Demarius Mims and Al-Qadim Muhammad having an outstanding season here. So you're starting to get more pass rush help across the board on the defensive line from the Lions against a team that has struggled to protect either Joe Burrow or Jake Browning this year. Yeah. I mean, Cincinnati's offensive line is a real problem. I mean, this was a problem even before Joe Burrow went down. It's definitely a problem with Jake Browning.
he has had no ability to mitigate the issue. So yeah, they're in trouble.
And shout out to Jack Campbell, just continues to progress at linebacker. I think, run game wise, I don't know if this is the week the Bengals get the run game going either. So a lot of things pointed toward Detroit other than home field advantage.
Yep.
For the Bengals. 10.5 though. Is that still too much for the Lions here?
It's a big line, but I still think they can cover it.
I'll also take Detroit. Don't have faith in Cincinnati figuring it out anytime soon. And Harry will also take Detroit to cover the 10.5 here in Cincinnati. One more game. Sunday Night Football. It's a good one, actually. New England Patriots at the Buffalo Bills. Bills are favored by 8.5. 2-2 Patriots team, 4-0 Bills team. But, New England may be on the upswing here. Couple turnovers away against Pittsburgh from being 3-1 here. And Buffalo settling in as maybe the best team in the league, best all-around team in the league. But it's a fun matchup for Sunday Night Football. Remember, these two teams, when they played their first game last year, Buffalo had already clinched the AFC East. So as the division rivals played their first game, rivals as in, they're in the division.
Theory.
As they played their first game last year, Buffalo had already clinched, because they clinched on November 30th or December 1st, whatever it was. So they're playing earlier this year and in Buffalo. What are you looking for in this one?
You're right. Buffalo looks very good. Both sides of the ball are impressive. James Cook has been arguably the best running back in the NFL this season so far. I think he leads the league in terms of total rushing EPA added as a running back. The Bills look really good. The Patriots have looked a lot better the last couple of weeks, and we've talked about how Drake May has kind of eliminated the bad decision from his game, at least recently. If that's the case, if Drake May has really cut down on that, they can make this competitive. I would still think Buffalo's better, and maybe they can hang tight, but eventually the Bills will go away. But this might be a sneaky competitive game.
I agree. I mean, I think 2 out of the last 3 weeks, May has only dropped back. He hasn't dropped back a ton, 31 times a couple weeks ago against Miami. Only threw the ball 23 times. 21 dropbacks last week against Carolina. Went 14 of 17. So they've created efficient offense. It has been different stylistically, and a lot of times we describe quarterbacks based off what we see, but then different systems, schemes, play calling, supporting casts can almost create different styles, right? So last year, May was a little bit more boom or bust, throwing the ball down the field a bit more and hitting some big-time throws and making some bad decisions. This year, for the most part, I think he's avoided the bad decisions, had a couple that he would want back against Pittsburgh a couple weeks ago. But it's been a safer, more underneath Josh McDaniels type of passing attack, and I think May's executing it pretty well. So lower volume, higher percentage throws, but he's also picking his spots as a runner really well. I think you'll need more from May, though, in this game if you're going to compete with Buffalo. But I like the way he's progressing and taking care of the ball and using his legs, but also making big-time throws when needed.
Yeah, I mean, you might need more from him. However, it is a defense in Buffalo that kind of still does invite the run, lets you run on them. The Patriots want to run the ball a lot. Now, the flip side of that is, so on the one hand, you've got a relative weakness in Buffalo in terms of giving up yardage on the ground, giving up some run plays, versus, I think, a relative strength in New England. And they can run the ball. They've got a stable of running backs that can all be effective. So that part, you would say, potential advantage New England. And if they can run the ball, that takes the pressure off Drake May, and he can still do what he's been doing. The flip side of that is you've got this Buffalo defense that always gets turnovers, and you've got this New England running back group that always fumbles the ball. That's not a great combination. So it's almost like the longer they stay on the field as a rushing offense in New England, the more likely they are to cough one up and give the Bills the turnover.
I am interested to see if they do stick with the run and try to go with the long sustained drives. Because look, we've said before, when you face the explosive offense, you want to control the ball and this and that. Well, now the explosive offenses, which it is the Bills, they like to have their long sustained drives too. So it's not like they're just quick strike. But you're at least limiting, if you can limit possessions, it is how you play the underdog role.
And the point we made before, I think Buffalo is now the most difficult offense in the NFL to just get off the field because they are very good in both running and passing. They keep the ball. Josh Allen becomes a cheat code in short yardage situations, so they lead the NFL in time of possession. They obviously, therefore, lead the NFL in time of possession margin in the first few weeks of the season. Like, they are extremely difficult to just get off the field.
Yeah, Buffalo's just really good all across the board offensively, right? And I'll say it again, like they haven't really had to fully rely on Josh Allen in a ton of games. Like they made the big comeback in week 1. Didn't need him a ton against the Jets. Made a few plays against Miami, and then once New Orleans underdog play went away on Sunday, it was like Josh Allen scramble and then Dalton Kincaid wide open. And by the way, we're up 2 scores again. So they're just so good. They have so many different ways to win. Khalil Shakir, Dalton Kincaid, love the way those guys are playing. Keon Coleman, love the way he's been playing as well. And then, the under center run game, just the straight up old school run game with Jackson Hawes, the rookie tight end, winning on the edge there for the Bills. Multiple ways to win for this offense.
Yep. Do you know who the bottom 3 teams in the NFL are in time of possession margin? So Buffalo's the first. They're the most difficult offense in the league to just get off the field.
I'm going to say the Titans have to be.
No, they are 6th.
6th lowest?
Yes.
Are the Dolphins down there?
Yes, they are the 3rd lowest.
Cardinals?
Nope.
All right, who else? Go.
The Bengals are by far and away the worst team in the NFL, where they're almost 9 minutes down on time of possession margin. And then the Baltimore Ravens are the 2nd lowest. Yeah.
That's what I'm saying. Boom or bust, right? It's like...
Well, it's like every Derrick Henry 60-yard run. Like that.
Yeah, but it's also like Lamar was either completing a pass down the field or he's taking a sack. And anytime you take a sack, you're probably punting or...
Right. Like they've had a bunch of drives that went nowhere and then a bunch of drives that were like single play, big, explosive scores.
Yeah. I mean, not to go back to the Ravens, but that is one of the questions of the season is how did they lose the game flow so badly with the run game advantages that they have of Lamar Jackson, Derrick Henry? Like, how do you lose that so much? By the way, time of possession is also your defense.
Yes.
It's also how much your defense can get off the field.
Right, which is awful in their perspective.
And then, if you're a Bills fan, they have Michael Hoyt, Larry Ogunjobi. You've got these guys coming off suspension in a couple weeks. Like, you have guys like Deion Walker getting experience, TJ Sanders getting experienced. Part of the reason why we raved about the Bills offseason is because they built incredible depth, especially on the defensive line and in the secondary, where you're going to hopefully get some Maxwell Hairston back at some point. All this depth that they've built, and you're sitting here at 4-0 with injuries and suspensions and just putting yourself in good position to peak at the right time, which is the goal, right? Peak around, beat the Chiefs in the regular season again, and then hopefully peak heading into the playoffs. The other question in this game, as soon as he got drafted by the Patriots, Will Campbell, I asked the question.
You identified this as a matchup.
If you're the Buffalo Bills, do you take maybe the best length winner in the NFL, Gregory Rousseau, and put him up against Will Campbell? Give him 10 one-on-ones against Will Campbell and test him. I think if you do, you might get a couple wins out of there and, get a sack or 2 out of Drake May, which is one of the places where May's sack rate is a little high. And the pass protection's been much better for the Patriots, but still a high sack rate for May. And there's been random blips like against Pittsburgh where he held the ball too long, ended up fumbling. So I think you can get 3 or 4 sacks.
And generally
as well.
Yeah, generally Will Campbell's been pretty good. I mean, he's given up.
He's been very good.
A bit of pressure, but not that much. 1 sack I think he's allowed so far, but he's looked pretty solid right away.
Yeah, I think he's been very good. But if you're talking about, I saw somebody in the chat yesterday say, he faced T.J. Watt and Max Crosby. He didn't. They're on the other side for the most part.
Most of the time, yeah.
And you've got Joey Bosa playing lights out. You've got Rousseau. This is probably Will Campbell's biggest challenge. And if you're the Bills and you want to challenge the rookie, and by the way, Morgan Bosa's been okay, not great for my hype. Bills could probably have some success against the tackles in this game.
Yeah, Joey Bosa's also got to have some decent length, I would have thought.
Yeah, he's also just good.
Well, that too.
I almost was afraid to say his name, but I don't see him on the injury report. Full disclosure, I don't have every injury report memorized here.
The risk
on a Thursday morning.
The risk of just bringing up Joey Bosa midway through a season without having checked he's hurt.
If you ever hear me say a player's name with like a lack of confidence, I'm like, oh shoot, is he hurt? And he's not. He's good.
Well, that's a win already. If you can get him to week 6 when those other guys get back, now you can start to really rotate him out of the lineup.
If you really want to save Bosa for the Chiefs game in week 9, play him for like 50 snaps in the month of December, and then get ready for January. I still believe this. I still believe this as a thing if you're the Bills.
Yeah, I wouldn't. I mean, honestly, there's not many players that I would say that about. But Joey Bosa, his injury record is so extensive at this point.
But you need to be as good as the Bills are, right? Like the Bills are gonna win the AFC East.
Right. You need to be
pretty confident that you're gonna have a home game at the very least in the playoffs.
Yeah, you have to be thinking about January in a way that other teams are not. Like there are teams out here just going, man, can we even make it to the playoffs? Like, how do we maximize that? The Bills are like, we are in the playoffs already.
Yes.
For all intents and purposes.
We're probably at worst the 3 seed and probably a 1.
Yeah, and we have a significant track record of failing in those playoffs. Our goal has got to be improving in January, and you've got Joey Bosa out here like leading the team in pressures, actually having a great season for them. And it's like, but that dude gets hurt every 3 minutes. Like, why? Let's try and, protect him a bit.
Last thing, just narrative-wise, obviously the Bills, since Tom Brady has left the division, the Bills own the AFC East. I don't remember off the top of my head I think New England upset them one time a couple of years ago in a weird game that, like the year that New England only won 4 games, they upset Buffalo. They had the 65-mile-an-hour wind game in Buffalo that they won as well, but that might be it, right? If New England's going to, take a step forward in the division, at least being competitive in this game, and if they could pull the upset, like it's huge for, the Drake May era, the Mike Vrabel era. So narrative-wise, I still think Buffalo is the best team in the East. They're going to win the East.
Sure.
But just showing that you can compete with them, doing it on prime time, having the Sunday night football game, could be a fun game here.
Yeah, I mean, even just continuing their improved sort of performance and run against, obviously a much better football team would be huge for them. Like the Drake May thing is going well right now. It is improving. They are looking better. Now you got to go do it against what is arguably the best team in the NFL, which is obviously a much more difficult ask. But if it even looks similar, it's a good thing for them.
All right, man, 8.5. Is that too much for Buffalo Sunday Night Football?
I have determined that it is, and that Drake May and the Patriots can keep it within 8.5.
Oh, my initial instinct was also that, so I'll stick with it. New England. Buffalo wins. New England keeps it within the 8.5. Harry's taking Buffalo, though. Believes in the Bills. Dominating this game, Sunday Night Football.
God, we agree a lot. I don't like that.
A lot of agreements.
Given your record.
I was 8-8 last week. I'm back. Only 14 games this week, so look at us.
I'm back.
2.5 hours. I told you it'd be crisp.
500.
I'm on TV in 15 minutes. Talking Patriots-Bills, actually. Appreciate everybody for tuning in and being here. Again, check out the Wednesday episodes if you're only a preview and a review guy or gal. Check out the Wednesday shows as well. A lot of fun stuff on the Wednesday shows, including shouty shows and other NFL stories. We'll be live after the show. No watch along for the members tonight, but we'll be playing in that next one very soon. Be sure to check out the memberships, see the perks, see the memberships, join, and see if you want to join us for the next watch along.
Yeah, and even if you're not interested in being a member, then just hit the subscribe button so you'll always see the content.
At least subscribe. Do all that too. But yeah, we'll be live after Niners and Rams with an instant reaction tonight right here on the YouTube channel.
Mm-hmm.
All right, that's it for us today. Thanks to everybody for tuning in. We'll see you again Monday morning with our Week 5 NFL review.